Yo,
Yo,
Oh, sorry. So yeah, yo, guys, yo. What's up? What's up? It's the kid. It's the kid. It's the kid. It's the kid. It's your main man here, HH, coming at you here. For what I think is going to be an exciting live show. You know, the trend mention show where we just look at what is trending, and we discuss. But this is a trend mention stroke stay black show. We're combining both of these shows together as one. So to tell you what's going to be coming up on this live show, we're going to be talking about Kanye West. Unfortunately, we're going to be talking about the anti-Jewish anti-Semitism that has been going around now, which has now come in as a topic. We're going to be talking about the latest protest, and we're going to investigate and maybe look at where the protests have gotten to, what kind of progress they've made, and we're also going to address BLM and the Black Lives Matter and discuss whether is this a Marxist movement, is it a problematic movement, and so forth. So, and obviously, I've got my guy with me. I've got Sam here with me, CA with me. So, CA. So, have you been here before? If not, can you state your name? CA.
yeah. I'm Corey. I'm Sam's friend. I was here before a couple podcasts.
Okay, Corey. You're Corey. Okay, cool. Okay, so let me just kick things off. So shout out to everybody who's in the live chats. What up? Aloha to everyone in the live chats. Hope you guys are good. So let me kick things off with Kanye West. So, because I've already given my thoughts, but I want to just maybe expand my thoughts, and I'll kick it over to Sam and to Corey, because I think this isn't about Kanye West. This is about our obsession with celebrity. And this just shows how much of a loss that we as a society have for celebrity. So Kanye West, because I haven't actually watched the video because I refuse to watch the video of him having, let's say, an episode where he sort of breaks down and starts crying, and he says Harriet Tubman is really free the slaves, and he has tried to launch his presidential bid. Because I said that I'm not going to address this, and then lo and behold, I look at his Twitter feed to find that he's coming out with an album this Friday. So this joker, this clown, has again used this presidential thing to gain awareness for his album, to try and get into relevancy in the hope of generating enough excitement and interest and intrigue for people to buy his album. This dude has not released anything of quality in the last decade or so forth. I don't know why people still give this guy a platform. I still don't know why people give this guy a microphone. I still don't know why people even give this guy any time on the mic. So where I stand is this. So first off is, why do people care so much? And why are people so interested in seeing someone that obviously has issues, obviously has mental issues? Why is that so fascinating to you? The second thing is, why are we so obsessed with celebrity, and how do we mix in a guy who makes beats and makes music, taking his views on society and so forth, and having a presidential run? Why do we take him seriously when we know that where he comes from? And the Kardashians as well. Anyone linked into the Kardashians, why should they be taken seriously? Why should we give a damn about attention whores? Now, I mean whore in the very nice sense of the word, but they're essentially attention whores. So this, because I think the issue you have with this Kanye West is that because he makes beats, because he's famous, and because he maybe made one of your favorite songs, you feel that you therefore want to hear about him with regards to politics and the presidential run. I love Doggy Style, which is an amazing album. I don't need to hear Snoop Dogg talk about political views or not try and vote for him if he becomes president. Pharoah Monch, Internal Affairs, great album. Why don't I need it? Because I like what he does on that album, and I want to hear about what he says about politics. The Neptunes have made some of my favorite songs I've ever listened to. Why do I need to hear from Chad Hugo or Pharrell about what they think about stuff when I know that they've not been doing this 24/7? All because you make music that I like doesn't then mean that I have to listen to you, or you should be given a platform to be a president or talk about things to do with a country, when that's not what you do in your daily life. So I want to turn this over first to Sam. So Sam, what is your overall take with this whole Kanye West thing and people's response to it, and him just being given these airwaves?
I'm gonna just straight say it. Kanye's gonna Kanye. The thing about him is that you got to realize this dude is not mentally stable. He is not mentally stable at all. I mean, think about go all the way back to like I'd say 2005 to 2000.
Yeah, Bush doesn't like black people.
Yeah, you can go back to that. I mean, here's my thing. When he said that, I was like, okay, that's controversial, but I mean, I could feel that, especially like during the whole sentiment during like Hurricane Katrina, because it almost felt that way. Because I mean, it definitely did feel that way. It's not that it kind of felt like that way. It did feel that way. But the thing was that when it came down to it started off when like he started making comments during the first, like a couple years back during like the first part of Trump's election, where he was saying stuff like slavery was an option. I mean, I was like, is this guy on drugs? And yeah, you continue, and then it just continues being a pattern. I mean, the thing about it is that like a lot of people don't like to talk about mental illness. And I would even say this: people don't like to talk about mental illness in the Black community. I mean, I know I'm expanding a little bit beyond, and I'm going real deep in this, but like, and it may not be the case for Kanye particularly, but it's one thing that a lot of people don't talk about, like mental health in the Black community. And I mean, part of it's from racism, part of it's in general, just like because a lot of people have bad mental health, especially nowadays. I mean, like one of the big things about Black people in the Black community is that we don't talk a lot about it, even when we have the means, when we have the money to go.
No. I mean, because you're forced to just be strong. If they say, "Oh no, you're ill, you're sick," get over it. You know, just focus, man. Like you don't have any time to be mentally ill. You know.
Yeah, and that's why, like, the thing about it though is that with Kanye, I think part of it is a little bit of insanity, eccentricity, but I think at the same note, he is trying to do something to pull. I mean, to pull controversy. I mean, like if he pretty, I don't know, I didn't see that he was dropping an album on Friday, but that pretty much to me sounds like it's exactly it's actually a publicity stunt.
No, because see, my thing was the thing that gets me is if let's say he was doing this when he had no album coming out, I'd be like, well, look, it's a pattern. The sick thing about it is mentally or not mentally. See, I don't see. Okay, maybe Hamash, I am not going to give him the mentally ill plea because the last time he did this, I think an album was coming out. So you've now come and done this, and you have an album coming out this Friday. So the timing is a bit too convenient. It's a bit too convenient, especially when you don't do this 24/7 when you don't have an album coming out.
Yeah, I mean and that's why I do agree. I think it's more just eccentricity, basically him being eccentric and trying to basically build up some controversy before his album, because I mean people are like, oh, this guy's like bold enough to like become president, to like run for the presidency and stuff like that. My guess is that as soon as his album comes out, like a couple weeks after that, he's going to basically come out and say he's not joining the election anymore. Because one thing he did say during that speech was that somewhere towards the end, he says he doesn't care if he wins, which to me just outright says that he doesn't want to. Which to me, he's just doing this for publicity. A lot of people who join elections in these campaigns, like all these senators and career politicians, do this stuff so that they can get some recognition. I mean, everybody does it because they gain sponsors, and sponsors give them money. It's all about money when you think about it at the end of the day.
Okay. So let me bring it. So Corey, your thoughts on this whole Kanye fiasco? Corey, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Sorry, just trying to work to unmute. Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Sam was saying. I think Kanye is a narcissist. I do think the timing is convenient. I mean, like, you know, if yeah, I don't know if Kanye has some kind of grand master plan to help us promote his sales or anything, but I do think that he's a narcissist, and I do think that he's thinking that, okay, well, I got an album dropping, so I want people to be talking about me because he enjoys the publicity. He's just like Trump. He enjoys all the oxygen that comes with the you know, the attention around him. So he just wants to have the spotlight. He wants people to talk about how brilliant he is and all that stuff, you know. I don't think he has to. I mean, Kanye's albums are dope. He's a dope musician. His albums have always been good. Well, maybe not the last couple, but before, back in the day, Kanye's albums were always dope, man. He doesn't really have to be crazy. And I think when his mother died, you could see when the craziness started to happen, because, you know, his mother, I believe, was probably his rock, and she kept him sane. Kim Kardashian, the Jenners, the Kardashians, whatever, they don't know how to deal with particular unique issues that he's having in America as a black man. They don't know what to do with him, you know. So, you know, he's not going to get any help from them. He can get sympathy, but he's not going to get any help from them. You know, we're obsessed with these celebrities, I think, because that's all the leaders that we really have in the African American community and the black community in general. It's very messed up. I mean, and they're the ones with the mic right now. These athletes and these entertainers have the mic right now. You know, back in the day, we had James Baldwin, we had Nelson Mandela. Today, we got Kanye. You know, and partially is because black people we allow that to happen. We don't snatch the mic away from them and say, oh, okay, you need to stop talking now. We kind of allow that to happen. You know, working class black people, I think they like the Kanye speaks his mind. You know, I think everybody likes that. Like, you know, it doesn't matter what color you are, they like the Kanye speaks his mind. That's always good. But he doesn't know how to stop. He doesn't know when to stop. And you know, mental illness in the African American community specifically is very taboo, especially with men. You know, you're supposed to be tough. You're supposed to walk it off, because we come from strong people, right? You know, black people all over the diaspora. We've survived a whole bunch of shit. So we're not trying to be sitting on the couch crying and complaining and stuff like that. We just gonna work harder. That's the kind of people we are. So, but that's not really beneficial when you got these tools around you, like psychiatrists and things like that. You know, a good stable mental health makes you think clearly. It helps you make better decisions. It makes you a happier person. Makes you enjoy life better. You know, so it's, you know, you kind of have to use the tools at your disposal.
Okay, so I want to focus a bit on Kanye West. Let me just ask two questions, but I'll ask this first one. And the first one is him as a genius, you know. So I get it. If someone is a genius, you know, like if Michael Jackson was still alive, if Prince was still alive, any of these dudes, anything they do or say, you just want to know because they have so excelled in their field. They have so changed how you've perceived a certain art form that you just care about because you're almost living in the place of some kind of ethereal being. And I want to know what you guys feel about this. Is that I want you to know exactly where this whole thing of genius is, because see, my theory is if Kanye West was not married to Kim Kardashian, nobody would give a crap about him. Him getting married to Kim Kardashian propelled and increased his popularity. It's almost similar to the thing with Jay-Z and Beyonce. Similar. But I think with Kanye West, even more so because Kim Kardashian, she's a flipping, walking, trend-setting thing. So you combine that with, oh, this guy has made a lot of these very famous, popular albums, boom. But my thing is that Kanye West is not a genius. He's not a legendary producer. He's a very good hip-hop producer, He's not a legendary one. He's an average rapper. So I don't understand why it's such a big deal about him. See, like, I may understand if, okay, you're the husband, you're the rapping, producing husband of Kim Kardashian, who I think is actually she is more popular than Kanye West. But them combined, they're their own brand, like Kimye. So for you, Sam, how do you view Kanye West? Is he that much of a big deal that we should really care about everything he says? Is he actually a genius, or is that all because of his relationship with Kim Kardashian?
Honestly, he's lost a lot of relevance because, I mean, he's an aging rapper. he's getting more. He's doing what more of the rappers like that are about his age are doing. I mean, because he's like what, mid-40s. I mean, guys like Jay-Z, Nas, like all those guys. I mean, maybe not Nas so much, but like Jay-Z, P. Diddy and stuff. Like they're going more into stuff like production and on the back end of things. I mean, and he's still out there rapping and like producing. I mean, still out there rapping. He is doing some production stuff, but he's doing more so of the rapping stuff. It's just that like now it's like, I mean, he's trying to find relevance at this time, trying to change. I mean, all this stuff. Because when you think about like a lot of the stuff that's happened with him, a lot of people said it since his mom died, is that he's pretty much like gone to this really radical I found God type thing. Because one thing you have to note about Black Americans though, is that like Black Americans are very, very conservative, especially when you talk about religious Black Americans, like the Black church. The Black church is like pretty much the rock in the Black community and with Black culture. I mean, while there are some policies and like a lot of people are registered Democrats, like historically, the Black church has been conservative in ideology. It's more of like, okay, very, very much based off of Christian ideals, which is mother and father, so on, so forth. And if you notice Kanye's messages, especially when he's with, I mean, that he's been pretty much professing along the whole time. There's been pro-life, basically anti-abortion, pretty much not talking more about just love and religion and stuff like that. He's been hanging out with probably one of the biggest frauds of a televangelist, Joel Osteen. If anybody knows about him, that dude is a fraud. Using basically
a lot of those dudes are frauds. So
yeah, they are. Televangelists in general are fucking frauds, but like that's another story.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really the big thing about it. Like, because even if he was pushing a message, like trying to push a real message, the only message I see that he's trying to push is basically pushing more religion into the United States.
All right. Corey, what about you? I mean, should Kanye West be made a big deal? Is he a genius?
I think at this point in time, the only people that we should be paying attention to are the people that are actually saying something relevant, man. We should be paying attention to Colin Kaepernick. We should be paying attention to Black entrepreneurs and business people, politicians that are trying to make a change. We need to stop as a society, stop putting these celebrities on a pedestal, especially when they're not really saying anything. But let me tell you, like, Kanye's dope, man. Like, I know, like, a lot of you guys on the chat, you guys don't really think Kanye's dope, but I mean, I just remember back in the day, I like hip hop music. I've always liked hip hop music, and it's in the era that Kanye came from. And Kanye started off as a producer. Kanye just had a consistent string of hits, man, and a lot of detail.
But Corey, yeah. Anybody that says Kanye West isn't dope, you're being foolish. But my thing is that there's dope, then there's genius.
Yeah.
There's like what's it called? There's like a Jay Dilla, and then there's like a Neptune's Dr. Dre. So is Kanye West?
There are people like there are people that have stuff to say. J. Cole has stuff to say. Kendrick Lamar has stuff to say. But I personally don't think we should be putting any of these entertainers on a pedestal and listening to every word they have to say. Sure, they might say something interesting and smart every now and again, but you are an entertainer, you're an athlete, you know what I'm saying? Like stay in your lane. You have a unique experience being the Black elite. You have access to life that most of us don't have access to, and I listen to you when you talk about that life. Like, man, things are pretty much the same on top, or things are like this, or things like that. I listen to them, but I don't think that we need to be listening to everything he says. I mean, we need to kind of be taking everything with a grain of salt. Like as far as like somebody who, we need to, like anything, whatever he says, we need to fact check and be like, hey man, that doesn't make any sense, or that doesn't sound right. He needs to be fact checked like everybody else.
I want to look at the Kardashians. I think even in the live chat, people are just sort of geared towards where I want to go to, because I think you have Valvena who says, why is the Kardashian family famous and wealthy? What did they do? So because I definitely want to see what you guys think about the Kardashians. Because with this whole Kanye West episode, people are saying, "Oh my gosh, anyone that goes with the Kardashians, they become messed up and destroyed." Like you look at the two basketball players and what happened with them. This is my thing with the Kardashians: is my issue isn't with the Kardashians. This is not a Kardashian problem. It's a people problem. Like, for me, Kim, you had a sex tape with Ray J. The sex tape got viral. Boom, boom, boom. You got famous. You have a big ass. Boom, you got famous. Boom. Everyone is now into big asses right now in the 2000s. Boom, you got big. And you leveraged and you used your fame. If nobody gave her any attention, they'd be useless. If nobody cared about what the Kardashians did, they'd be useless. But people's obsession with what they do, what they want to do, watching keep up with the Kardashians, because you're watching people who they don't have any talent. They're not talented at anything. Kanye West is an extremely talented producer. He's a very good producer. That is a clear talent. The Kardashians, they're not talented at anything. So it is a very weird fascination that, see, I can understand people who are, like for me, who I'm obsessed with R9 or Maradona or Zidane, because I'm like, wow, how can you do those things that 99.9% of people can't do? Or you're obsessed with it like a Michael Jordan or a Roger Federer or a Mike Tyson and so forth. The guys who are literally in the 0.1%. I don't know why people are obsessed with the Kardashians when they're not doing anything that is exceptional. They're not doing anything that is special or sets them apart. So why do you care about them? So Sam, I mean, could you maybe help me and the people? Why are people obsessed with a family that aren't talented at anything?
Pretty much the thing about the Kardashian family is like pretty much the classic example of like certain, because there's a couple. Kardashians are actually a very interesting enigma because it went through 3 to 4, I would say 3 phases in the US when it came to stardom and celebrity. Because you got to think about it this way. The Kardashians weren't even a thing when their father was actually, you have to go way back to their father, which is in the 90s. Do you know?
Yeah, I think I see it because he was at the O.J. Simpson trial. Yeah,
exactly. He was part of the legal team. He was basically a high profile celebrity guy, and all of his daughters were all all of his daughters were basically like pampered by that. I mean, pretty much. Then you got to realize they grew up in the early 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. That's a time when like reality television was like in its heyday and getting like built up. I mean, because The Real World and like Road Rule, all those like reality TV shows were getting,
also called Big Brother and so forth.
Exactly, and those were just getting like up there and up there and up there. And then pretty much you have Kim Kardashian, which essentially is a reality TV show star. And then there was also the parallel. Also, you got to consider there was another parallel that was very similar to her in Paris Hilton, who obviously, for other reasons, completely disappeared off the face of the earth. But they pretty much had the same upbringing. They're basically really trust fund kids of really rich and famous people that basically use that ability. And then both of them also had sex tapes and managed to get themselves into other forms of media. I mean, Paris Hilton got herself into some movies in the early 2000s. Kim Kardashian got herself into some music videos and some other things. And then she had the sex tape with Ray J, which Ray J, I mean, let's be honest, Ray J is a C tier like musician. I mean, because he's obviously
really. I think people care about no more about Moesha than they do Ray J.
Exactly. And what that ended up doing was that pretty much what built her up was that she married Kanye. So Kanye was basically around the time when Kanye and Kim Kardashian were basically met up. Kanye was plateauing a bit. I mean, Kim Kardashian her status was elevating. So when they joined, it was basically a union made in heaven. They basically elevated each other. then on top of that, like the next couple of years, the rest of the Kardashian family starts getting hitched. I mean, first of all, you got the mother, the mother of that family. They basically marries Bruce Jenner, which is now Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, and then all the other daughters, like I forget, the oldest one like married Larry Odom for a little bit of time, and then out of nowhere, the youngest one ends up becoming like one of the biggest influencers in history and one of the youngest billionaires off of fucking Instagram. Instagram, man. Like it makes no sense.
Wait, how is that possible? It's like, but how? So is it because people just want to view? Like, see, that's why I don't see. Because in my mind, I just think that you need a talent to be successful, or you need to be talented at doing. What is that little girl's talent that has made her so famous?
I mean, honestly, the thing about you got to realize also about her is that, I mean, about Caitlyn, I mean, about the Jenner Kardashian family is that pretty much the thing that they used was that they built the whole influencer culture came out of that family. I mean, because you're talking about YouTube, Facebook, Instagram was pretty much centered around these people, and then they end up getting really popular from it. I mean, it's stuff like, because just like you were saying, like it was when a couple things got culturally appropriated, kind of. I mean, basically twerking big asses and stuff like that got really popular.
Mm-hmm.
They basically went from that. They also had the platform of already being rich, which that helps quite a bit, because rich people, I mean, people who are billionaires, a lot of people who are billionaires were at least in well-off conditions. I mean, unless they're like a musician or something. And continuing from that, I mean, it essentially built up to this point where all they have to do is basically advertise one product, and they're making $100,000 to a couple million.
But my thing though is that what are people's fascination about them? Why them and not someone else? Kim Kardashian isn't the most beautiful woman in the world. Caitlyn Jenner, whatever the hell, they're not the most beautiful. Like, trust me, I go on Instagram and trust me, there are a lot of beautiful women. And so, what is it about them specifically that they can tap into millions of people? Why these creatures?
I have a theory.
Yeah, go ahead.
And it's not a popular theory.
Oh God.
And it's and I'm sorry to say, but I mean,
let's ride.
Hey man, like I think, and this is part of what I wanted to say, but I think, at least in the U.S., which is a racist society, I think it's a little fascinating to watch these pretty light-skinned, almost white girls who only date black men. I think that's part of the fascination. I think it's fascinating to a lot of society. I think that's part of the reason why the sex tape got big. But nobody knew who these people were before the sex tape. Maybe Ray J, but Sam said, he was a tier 2, tier 3 R&B singer. I mean, he wasn't like super famous, but definitely not Kim. I think the racial element is the reason why people became so fixated, and then she kept dating only black men after that. I work with white guys who roast Kim Kardashian because she only dates black guys. I think she's very polarizing. I work with a lot of white people who hate Kim Kardashian, and when I ask them why, I'm like, and they say, well, because she's stupid. I'm like, well, there's a lot of stupid bimbos in Hollywood that people like. There's got to be more than that. And I think she's polarizing because she only dates black men. And I think a lot of, not only just her, but her sisters too, only date black men. And I think these are really pretty light-skinned women who only date black men. And I think that's very fascinating, and that's very annoying to a lot of white America out there, and white people in general.
I think I now know where you might be going. So you're saying, because I want to grab onto the people, because I almost sort of receive this even when I do my football stuff, is that there are people who hate me based on my views, but they still watch me. I'm like, I say, Messi, Christian, these guys are trash, they are bums. And these Messi, Christian fans know that I am insulting your idols, but you still watch me. and you still want to come towards me and give me views when you know very well that I hate your goats and I insult your goats. So from what you're saying is people are fascinated, even if people hate that why do we date black guys, that fascination is still drawing them to it. What did these guys do? Because of there's that kind of mix of envy and jealousy of like, wait, why these black guys are supposed to be these useless people that are being blazing? Why are you going for black guys?
You go to the whitest, most racist parts of America, and interracial porn is the most popular porn there. It's that for a reason. It's the most taboo thing.
I was gonna say something else though too, because here's the deal. Because there's a lot. Because you got to consider also you're a YouTuber, so you realize the YouTube algorithm. People talk about the YouTube algorithm because if you get a lot of negatives, you'll get a lot of attention. But the problem is though, if you have a lot of negatives, you won't have a lot of longevity. You got to realize these people have a lot of longevity. They like Kim Kardashian's been on the up and has been pretty stable for the past 10 years, 20 years, almost 20 years. So like to keep that level, you essentially have to have more people that like you than hate you. I mean, yeah, there'll be people that hate you, but those people are, even if those people are watching, they're probably still giving. It's probably more of a chance that they're giving likes, but at the same time, there are people that are being influenced by them. Essentially, the whole influencer deal that's giving them. And one person actually put, and the other thing also that somebody put in the comments here was that don't sleep on the cosmetics business. On the cosmetics business, because you also got to realize one thing also about YouTube. And this is not even I'm not talking about Instagram or Facebook either. In YouTube, one of some of the highest grossing channels are are cosmetics channels, and they're done by some of the weirdest people. And there's there was actually some news in the past couple of weeks about some of the guys. About some of these people. They got gay guys, trans guys, and obviously chicks.
Kids. They got kids.
The thing though, just even to jump off what you guys are saying is, again, I'm just sort of connecting the dots right now. So you look at Kim Kardashian. She represents what most women probably look like, in the sense of most women aren't stick thin. So that whole thing of, back in Paris Hilton could only go so far because that kind of mindset was always going to die out. But what Kim Kardashian represents, first of all, it's what she looks like. That's the first thing. Curvaceous, so forth. Most women are curvaceous. Also, is a thing with black men. That's like a hidden secret. So, tell you this right now. This is a fact. And it's so good that we even got here. Most white women dream about black guys, dating black guys, having sex with black guys. A lot of them won't reveal it in public. A lot of them won't even act on it. But that is one of their dreams. That's one of their lusts. That's one of their desires. So seeing someone going out and doing that, so it's a combination of the popularity, the sex tape, the thing with black guys, that whole package, you're like, boom, aha, I can now ride with this, but then, do you know what's even deeper? In my, when I was in my house, I would see my mom and my sister watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians. So I'm like, wait a minute. Why would my mom and my sister be into Keeping Up with the Kardashians? Because my thing about it is that I think their reach is really deep. So there's some people who shouldn't even be interested in it's Kim Kardashian, you're into black guys, who are still into her. So where does that come from?
I was just going to say that, I was going to say that I don't think her fascination now is the same as it was before. I think originally, what I said before was originally the fascination with her, because back in the day, you didn't really see that on TV that much. You didn't really see, this was 2000, 2001. You didn't really see interracial stuff on TV that much, especially interracial sex tape is so popular. But you know, the world is changing. I think her talent is being famous. Like her lifestyle, showing off her lifestyle as a talent. She sells her lifestyle on Instagram. Little girls want to be an LA Valley girl just like her. You know, I gotta hand it to her, man. She took her moment of fame and she ran with it. She made the most money that she could. Not only her, but her sisters too. Her sister is a billionaire.
No, but it's interesting. So this is from Levi's page, says that Kim, Chloe, and Kylie all became super famous, while Courtney never got to be that famous because she's married to a white man.
Yeah, man.
Wow. See, I don't know all the details because, like I told you, I know nothing. I don't even know who is who, and I don't even know with the names because they all are the same to me. But that is fascinating, though. That is fascinating. Okay, but my thing about it is, do you? Okay, actually, no, that's better. So both of you guys. So I'll come first to Sam. What is your view on Kim Kardashian or the Kardashians personally? Your view towards them, Sam.
Say what?
So what is your personal emotions towards the Kardashians? How do you view them? Like them, hate them, indifferent?
I'm extremely indifferent because I don't follow anything about them. I really don't care. They're not on my radar. I don't care about them. I don't really watch them. I mean, here's my thing. I'll be honest about some stuff. The Kardashians, they look good. They look good. Like if Kim Kardashian,
anybody that denies that you're being a hater.
Yeah, if like one of the Kardashians like came to my house and was like, "What's up?" I'd be like, "Yeah, what's up? Let's ride." but seriously though, yeah. As far as like the whole like emphasis on like on everything they do, I'm very indifferent. I don't care. I mean, even with the people that they deal with, their family, like their extended family, like. I don't care. I mean, one thing that did fascinate me a little bit when I first heard it was when I'm trying to think of the Kardashians' name, but the one who made who's a billionaire now. She's like,
wrong dude, bro.
It's Jenner. It's the youngest one. She's a cosmetic billionaire now. She made $1 billion off of her cosmetic company.
$1 billion.
I'm like, how is she making that much fucking money? That's the only thing that even
because they are selling that lifestyle, that LA Valley girl lifestyle. Little girls want to be an LA Valley girl. Little girls want to be just like that.
That's not LA Valley girl. That's like that's more like new age like LA girl lifestyle because it's not Valley Girls anymore. Valley Girls was like got played out in the 90s. It's like LA like I'm high fat.
LA scene girls like she's LA like pop that those popular LA girl and yeah, little girls want to be there.
You want that lifestyle. You know
what's that?
It's basically it's like MTV Cribs. You want that lavish lifestyle that you can't get, but you still want which is so unattainable to you.
And I gotta admit, man, I'm a capitalist. I love what Kim and her family did with their moment of fame, and I love it. They made a multi-billion-dollar empire out of that. Everybody sells sex and stereotypes. Nobody getting mad at Duck Dynasty or Honey Boo Boo and all those guys making money off their stereotypes.
You can't see that's it, which is why I say that. Even when I was looking at them, I was like, wait a minute, why should I hate these people? There's no reason for me to hate them because, as Mojo says, they are very good entrepreneurs. You see a gap in the market, you exploit it. If you're giving people what they want, you're giving people what they want. It is what it is, and you just keep them moving. So, yeah, they're really good entrepreneurs. They're good entrepreneurs, man. So, sorry, Sam, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say something, but yeah, there was somebody that like was saying that it's confirmed that she was lying about the $1 billion, but she's still worth hundreds of millions of dollars. She still is worth like probably like half a billion already.
Even that's still crazy.
Yeah, and that's like, and even with that being said, I mean, like when you're at those levels of wealth, I mean, it gets down to a point where I mean, you're making that much money off of influencing on YouTube, like, or Instagram. I mean, there was a good example actually of this because I think this is Kylie. Yeah, it's Kylie Jenner. That's her name. Kylie Jenner, like she makes. They were saying that average per every advertisement that she makes for some type of company or for her company per Instagram post, she makes something like 70. She makes something like $7 or $8 million per fucking post. Like $7 million.
And I think she was the first person really to kind of sell her brand, sell her first famous person to kind of sell her cosmetic brand like that, or like do it on social media. And you can't really get mad at her, man. Times are changing. Like, people are not selling shit on TV and commercials anymore.
Oh, no, it's
selling stuff on Instagram.
Oh, no, because you see, this is how business works now, and you're seeing this with Instagram personalities. You're seeing this with, because again, for example, there's this guy. I'm sure you must have heard of him, called King Batch. He used to be on Vine, and he does a lot of these like short skits. So he just does a lot of these comedic skits, and this guy's stuff is hilarious because within 30 seconds or a minute, he will just create a scenario and it is super funny. So if you're a brand, why am I going to advertise on TV or advertise during the middle of a film or during a TV program on television? No. This King Batch, every post he puts up averages at least 1 million. It's about 1 million posts for everyone that he puts out. So surely it would make more sense if I attach whatever brand I want to this King Batch. So I think it's the same thing with this Kylie chick. It's like, she can reach millions of people. And because she can reach millions of people, we're just going to put whatever it is on her. And you, as a product, you will have, your reach will be far greater with her than anyone else. So sorry, Corey, you wanted to say something?
Oh, no. I said everything I wanted to say. I was just, just to end it on, like, I mean, I wish that I had the opportunity that they did to have all the eyeballs on me and my family all at once. When Kim Kardashian made that sex tape, everybody was all of a sudden curious about the Kardashians. Oh, they're connected to the O.J. Simpson thing, the Kardashian family. Oh, her mother married this guy named Bruce Jenner. He used to be this really famous Olympic athlete. They got a bunch of beautiful kids, and they all date black guys. I mean, like, it's kind of like,
but Corey, what do you know? What's also deep? It's so good that you brought up that whole thing with black guys. I think the thing with Kim, because she's like a mix, and she's got the exotic look. Because see, we've now gone away from the whole blonde, white, blue-eye thing to the more mixed race, exotic, light skin thing. So mix that mixed race, light skin thing to the black man stereotype. Oh my gosh. That's like the potent mix. That's like the potent lustful mix for a lot of women who, as I say, a lot of white women are obsessed with black guys, whether they want to admit it or not. So that's even draws to it. So MB, have you been here before?
Yeah, man, I was on one a little bit ago. But to touch on the point you just made, I don't even think that they're on anything about quote unquote exotic. To me, they know that she's white. They're just sprinkle some culture on it by, she gave herself features of a woman of color. And people will say, oh, she's not really white. They're from like, where are they from? Like Armenia, someplace like that, right?
They're from Armenia. So they have kind of that Eastern look to them.
That's the thing. They would not be white in Europe, bro. In Norway, Sweden, they would not be white.
But we don't live there.
America, you're right. In America, they're white, quote unquote white. But in Norway, they're not white.
They don't look Caucasian.
No, they're the white trash of Europe. Looking at it from white Europeans look. Just saying, right? Like, if you're not like a lot of my Russian brothers, right? They're not jacking with a woman who doesn't have blonde hair and blue eyes. They're not. That's just a lot of what I've encountered with my friends.
Okay. So MB, you would actually look at Kim Kardashian and view her as white?
Is she not?
She isn't though. She doesn't look white.
No, she's not white. She looks Armenian, bro.
Wait. I mean, like, live chat. I mean, like, she's not, like, basically, put it this way: if I was just walking down the street and I just saw her, I would immediately think Lebanese or Middle Eastern. Automatically, like, oh yeah, she has to be like Middle Eastern. Not in a billion years would I say Caucasian. Like, compare her to flipping just Jessica Biel or Paris Hilton.
Yeah, but
Like,
they're
they're
from
not-
different they're from different cultures though. That you can't even say that. Here's the thing. Just the people like to think of Caucasian or just white people as fitting into this one stereotypical look, right? They don't all do like that. That's like somebody failing to realize the differences in appearance between a brother from Africa and me, who was born here. That it's to me, that's how I view it. Like, I don't know anybody besides like this. Hearing you guys say this is the first time that I'm hearing people say that they view her as something other than a white woman. In fact, the whole reason why people
pretty much here's the deal. So like in this, so it actually is a double-edged. It's a double-edged sword.
He's the American standard of white, bro.
I mean, she is like to the American standard of white, she is white. I mean, like
barely white by the American standard.
how barely? She's not
like
black, so she's white, and she's
white, then what is Tilda Swinton?
Tilda Swinton's British.
I mean, like her race.
She's white,
No,
but my point.
British is not a race.
But listen. No, what I'm saying is, all right. So British isn't a race, but she's what you think of as a typical Anglo-Saxon, a person of Anglo-Saxon heritage is what Tilda Swinton is, which is why they made such a big deal about her playing someone who was supposed to be Asian.
Yeah. And that's a Marvel thing.
But
you're
even
saying
beyond
Kim
that,
Kardashian's the same or what?
they're from different people. No, they're not the same, but they're from the same general group. Shit, I mean, it's like I'm not necessarily the same as Sam. We're both black men, but my blood is different than his blood. Our features are different, but we're still men of color.
I'm also going to jump in on this too. Like the other deal with that as well is like when you're talking about like Tilda Swinton versus, versus.
Wait. Okay, so MB, so you're telling me that woman to the right of us is white?
So tell me this: you picked the picture with her looking tanned and glorious, and her with her hair in braids. How about you take a picture of her with her hair straight when she was meeting Donald Trump? If she wasn't viewed as white in America, it wouldn't have been such a huge deal for her marrying Kanye.
She looked Arab as fuck, bro.
It wouldn't have been such a big deal about them pointing out what her children look like and oh my God, she's a beautiful blah blah blah. Like my point to you is this: you can say that to you she looks Arabic. I mean that's cool. I literally know Arab women who have green eyes and blonde hair. It's a hodge, dude. It's the cradle of life. Everyone, you can look so many different ways being from there. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is how she's viewed in America.
I hear what you're saying, bro.
It wouldn't have been such a scandal for her to marry.
Now I get you because it's there before. Okay, because basically it's the same thing that I have. It's the same comment I have with my mixed race amigos, because I always say to people, wait, no, you're mixed race, you're half black, you're half white. But mixed race, no, don't call me mixed race. I'm black. I'm like, what do you mean by you're black? I said, no, how I am viewed in America, how I live, how I'm treated as a black man, so I will view myself as a black guy. I'm like, oh, cool, that's cool. But you're still technically mixed race, so you can't just ignore your white mom. But I do get it that if based on how you're viewed, you're black, so it's cool. So it is true, which is what I find interesting, because see, it's almost as if she has the best of both worlds. Because yes, MB is right that she is viewed as black in America, but she doesn't look. Sorry, she's viewed as white in America, but she doesn't look white.
No,
so she has the benefits of looking features, the benefits of being white.
She took all of what we consider our women's best features: their beautiful skin, their lips, their ass. She took all of that and co-opted the fuck out of it to market herself to people of color.
I was actually gonna bring that up, because one of the big things with her was that in television and her being in a relationship with Kanye, but the main thing about her and all the Jenner / Kardashians, they basically gained their fame off of cultural appropriation.
Oh yeah,
talked about here.
Who knew about Kim Kardashian before she got raw dogged by Ray J?
That's exactly
Nobody.
what I said. That's exactly what I
And that's
said.
my point.
Yeah, she was a nobody. She was a nobody.
He's a G-list celebrity, fucking G-list. But the fact of the matter is, she fucked a G-list celebrity, and the reason why it was scandal is not because he's Brandy's brother, because no one even cares about Brandy at the time. The reason why it was a scandal is because she was an affluent white woman who made a sex tape with a black man. That's
Exactly
why
what
it was
I
a
said.
scandal. That's why it was a scandal. So going back to it, no, she's not viewed as a woman of color. Fuck out of it. No, pardon my French for the swearing, but no, she's not viewed as a woman of color. The whole reason, her whole brand is, I'm white, I look black, my husband is a famous black man. What can I do? But now at least now, people can say it's self-serving. She's using her brand to help people in the black community. And I think that's awesome.
Okay. Before I bring in Raymond, just to give his thoughts on it. So, MB, let me say this to you. Should your beef really be with Kim Kardashian, or should it be with the black people who are fooled by what she's doing? Who should your anger really be directed towards more?
Well, I'm not angry for one. I mean, but my whole thing is this: we live in a nation where people love black culture, but not black people. So my whole thing is this: it's not necessarily black folks who are eating this up, because I can't honestly tell you. People pay attention to her because of Kanye, but Kanye is kind of that dude in our community, and you know that he's like that black dude. There's always one cousin or whatever you have that's that dude, and that's Kanye for like most of us. But people don't view her as part of the community. I think the people who watch her the most I break this down to being like hip hop. The largest consumers are not black. The whole reason why she's popular is because people tune in to see what kind of craziness will come from their mixed relationship and their whole spiel. That's why people tune in. I can't really name any black people that I know that watch their show, but I know they're really popular with white folks. And I think that's the thing. White folks tune in because it's culture. Oh my God, let me consume it. But it's not necessarily because they think it's good. It's not necessarily because it's entertaining. They're essentially ingesting spice in an otherwise bland ass life.
Okay,
That's how I look at it.
It's entertaining.
Wait. So before I continue, let me just hit this real quick. So Real Deal says, why blame Kim for Kanye? Women can be careless, not men. 100. Look, as I said again, people said, oh, Kim Kardashian, look at what she did to Kanye West. Give me a flipping break. Kanye West, you're a grown man with a brain. You choose who the hell you want to marry. You married Kim Kardashian because I know what you wanted. You wanted to be accepted into white society because you are obsessed with gaining white acceptance, because from your own mouth you said, I want to be like Michelangelo, I want to be like Picasso, I want to be like all of these kinds of dudes. And Kim Kardashian bought into your crazy slave mentality fantasy of being accepted into a white society. That is on you, Kanye West, not on Kim Kardashian. So Raymond, real quick, first off, your thoughts on Kanye going crazy, talking about his whole his presidential run, and what are your views on Kim Kardashian and the Kardashians?
Working backwards, I don't think about Kim Kardashian. The next question, as far as Kanye, just kind of like an entertaining thing to watch. I mean, when you get into it, the only thing of value that I see is people, not even value, just worth talking about, is I'm intrigued that some people think he's going to steal votes from Democrats. The way he acts, the way he carries himself, my money is he would split a Republican ticket before he split a Democratic ticket. Yes, he might have been built by a quote unquote liberal world, but Donald Trump was built by a liberal world. Donald Trump is Donald Trump because of liberals. Liberals built him. He was the funny guy from New York. He was in Home Alone. Conservatives did not build Donald Trump. Liberals did. So to me, Donald Trump and Kanye West are really coming from the same place. So that's what I have on that. But yeah, most of your guys' conversation, that's the way I look at it, that's a waste of life. I don't know no people that be sitting around thinking about Kim Kardashian. And honestly, my guess is most of the people who do, they're never going to get to where I'm at. So do you. If Kim Kardashian's a topic in your household, you know, follow that path, brother.
All right, so let's move on to our next topic. And this is about this anti-Jewish, anti-Semitism topic that has sort of been really in the headlines in the past week or so. So obviously began with Deshaun Jackson, NFL player who was sort of quoting some passages from the Nation of Islam, and he has to sort of backtrack and apologize for those things. Then you saw Nick Cannon, who had Professor Griff, formerly of Public Enemy, where they just talked about who are the real Jewish people and so forth, and kind of discussions he's had about, you know, anti-Semitism and so forth. And then Nick Cannon sort of got cancelled by Viacom, so forth. So he basically deleted most of his Instagram, apologized, and he has deleted all of his videos on like his whole Nick Cannon podcast, and now his recent videos with a rabbi. So here's my thing, and I want to get your guys' views on this right now. My first thing is this. Let me jump off. And the way anti-Semitism is used is false and is wrong. The Semitic people who speak Semitic languages are those of Arabic or the people that speak either Arabic or Hebrew. But you can even trace it back to Asiatic and Afro people as well. So there is a whole mix of cultures that deal with Semitic languages. So by definition, anti-Semitism can't just be a hatred of Jewish people specifically by definition. It's just that that term was popularized as an attack towards Jewish people by German writers back in the day. But at the same time, anti-Semitism can't be something that can be owned by Jewish people. That's the first thing. Second thing is this, is to say, and this is where I want you to bring you guys in, to say that mostly Jewish people control and own most of the studios in Hollywood isn't anti-Jewish. I don't understand how that's anti-Jewish. Now, if you now make a leap by saying, oh, by you saying that mostly Jewish people control most of Hollywood, therefore they are using it only to their own ends, and therefore it's some kind of evil thing, this will now stoke a fear and an anger towards Jewish people that can now bring about a Holocaust part 2, that is you making that leap. The statement is a statement. There isn't a prerequisite to now make that leap after I've made a certain statement, which is that mostly Jewish people are the guys who are heads of some of the most powerful production companies in Hollywood, which is why if you do say anything anti-Jewish or so forth, you are pretty much going to get cancelled and you will get taken away without having any jobs and so forth. So, and my thing is, there is, from my point of view, and this is where I just think people need to be realistic. If, let's just say, Jewish people control most of Hollywood and most of the production studios and control most of TV, and they look out for other people who are Jewish, and they place tabs on any people that says anything that is against their people, who are you to hate on that? They've somehow found a way of getting into these powerful positions. They somehow found a way to getting into this influential position. So if I get into an influential position, shouldn't I reap the benefits of that by helping people that look like me, that are from my own culture? As I said to people, I lived in a very Jewish neighborhood where I think there were only 2 of us that were not Jewish, like us and another Nigerian family across the road. The Jewish people, they kept themselves. And I did feel a very weird energy when I walked down the streets when I saw Jewish people. So, and that's all cool. They help each other. So, and I think that, see, this is where I use my example when I was in school in England, is there was a lot of racism against Chinese people in my school. That's because the white guys, the white English guys, didn't like people who are foreign, who stuck together and didn't integrate. that just stoked a certain kind of hatred towards them. So there was a lot of racism against Chinese people specifically because they always hung amongst themselves. So I think the anti-Jewishness may come from the fact of why do they only stick together? Why do they only help themselves? Why don't really they want to integrate? Why is it so? That may be where it comes from. But so I want to just get your guys' views on this. So first of all, Sam, do you believe that there is still massive anti-Jewish sentiment in the world today? And do you feel that that mostly Jewish people do control a lot of Hollywood?
Okay, so there's a couple things about it. I want to comment about three things. So the first one is going to be what you just said, which is anti-Jewish sentiment throughout the world. Yes, there is a lot of anti-Jewish sentiment throughout the world because here's the thing: you got their biggest enemies. First of all, are not black people. That's what Jewish people. A lot of Jewish people realize, but some Jewish people think that. A lot of Jewish people think, because really the only black people that really are against them are some people like Professor Griff and Nick, and to an extent people like Nick Cannon, which in the States we call some of those people black Hebrew Israelites or Hotep niggas, as some people around where I live call them, because they're like those guys who were like, we're the original Israelites and like all this other shit. And then they basically straight up like talk all types of shit. And let's be frankly honest, those motherfuckers are racist. They don't
They
like
scream at people as they walk by and call them not real black and other ignorant shit like that in Harlem.
They'll say not real black. They'll call white people Neanderthals and shit, and like say some really racist shit. Like Nick Cannon, to be honest, his comments, like he said, I think his comments about white people were worse than his comments about fucking Jewish people.
That's the thing. But see, it's so good that you brought it up, because he wasn't reprimanded for what he said about white people. It's about what he said about Jewish people, and instead for his anti-Semitic views, which again shows you the power they possess. But carry on.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I mean, like, the thing about white people though is that especially nowadays in the States, they're taking a couple hits and a couple L's because they know they fucked up. They know they fucked up, and they can take a couple of hits because they have plenty of hits that they could take. But Jews aren't playing that shit. Let's just be frankly honest. Jews are not playing that shit at all. And Jews will straight tell you that, like, will straight tell you stuff like, I mean, they won't say anything. It'll be like, you fuck up and you're part of one of their organizations, one of their groups that they're affiliated. They'll get rid of you with the quickness. I mean, it's just like any group that has money, that's organized, they'll get rid of you and they won't care about you. So, and that ties into some of the other stuff, such as like elements of things that they're in power of. They're not in charge of. So the thing with Hollywood is that there's a misconception that they're in charge of most of Hollywood or most of the entertainment. But the truth is that they're only in charge of a third. But I mean, that's still a third. You got to realize that Jewish people are only about 1 to 2% of the world population, and like about 3 to 4% of the U.S. population. But they have 30%, but they're in charge 30% of Hollywood, 30% of like all media in the U.S. Which, if you consider the media in the U.S. of Hollywood, that accounts for about 70% of movies that are played in the world. Somewhere in the 60 to 70 percentile. So like every 3 out of 4 movies that you see are most likely American media.
Mm-hmm.
So you get into that. I mean, and getting back into like people who hate Jews. So like I said, black people, not so much. Muslim people, Arabs, people from the Middle East. I can look at your comments already and I can see a lot of that shit going on. And the big reason why is obviously because of Israel, because of the formation of the state of Israel and how they treat the.
I mean, look, I was reading up on that, man.
Honestly,
the way that country was built is a bit sketchy. Maybe we'll get there after, but it's a little sketchy how that country was built. But carry on.
I'm not getting tied into that. They got them. Then there's like I mean, you got like the racist white people, but racist white people don't fuck with them that much. It's the white supremacist, white nationalists that really hate them because they basically think of them the same way that the Nazis thought about them, where it's like they do stuff like deny things and basically say that they're actually the worst enemies, and they also make all these. And if you look at some stuff, like if you actually like really look at some of the stuff that white nationalists and white supremacists put out, they'll put stuff saying that the Jews are basically the puppet masters pulling the strings of everybody. And that ties into some of the stuff that people talk about with the Rothschilds and other families and stuff like that.
So do you believe that then? Do you believe that whole theory that of the Jewish people owning most of the banks and how the money flows in the world? Or you think that's just a conspiracy?
I think the world's changed, honestly, because I mean, one person put it in another comment. The Chinese are like slowly taking shit over. They're taking a lot of shit over. I'm gonna let somebody else talk.
Okay.
The Chinese put so much money into Hollywood. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, yes, okay, Corey.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be too long. I was gonna say I don't really get black anti-Semitism in the first place. I mean, where does that come from? You know, over the course of yeah, I mean maybe, but not everybody's a fan of Farrakhan either, right? I mean, over the course of history, Jews have helped black people in the U.S. I mean, unless I'm mistaken, I've personally never had a Jewish person do anything bad to me, to be honest. Places like in New York, Jews are one of the few quote unquote white people, because they're not really white, but Jews are one of the only quote unquote white people where you can kind of keep it real with them, man. You can kind of, they kicked it with black people like everybody else. Now they have their own insular society. They're like any ethnic, they're like any ethnic closed group in America. They keep their money to themselves. They keep their culture to themselves. They keep their information to themselves. A lot of other ethnicities do that. Cubans do that. So I mean, Chinese people do that. So I mean, this is not different than any other ethnic group in the society. So, and I will say that the fact that they stick together and help themselves, from my experience at least, draws ire from the white majority. I don't ever remember anyone in my family complaining that Jews control everything. The Jews were not a topic of conversation over dinner. I'm just, I mean, I don't really get, that's why I don't really understand where this black Jewish hate comes from. I don't really understand. I mean, besides, maybe if somebody might be a fan of Minister Farrakhan, but Minister Farrakhan don't even be, not anymore, from what I hear from him, he don't really, preach any kind of hate towards Jews.
He's not, it's sort of like, I've listened to and watched a lot of Farrakhan stuff. He isn't anti-Jewish. He isn't anti-Jewish. He's not saying the kinds of things that white nationalists are saying or neo-Nazis are saying, who are no, these guys, they fully hate Jews. Or how some people in my school used to say, oh my man, don't be such a Jew, don't be such a Jew. Don't be so tight with your money, don't be such a Jew. Which is what some of the white guys in my school used to be saying. That's not what your boy Farrakhan is saying. So MB, where do you stand on this?
Well, to that point that was made earlier, I was saying the Chinese pump so much money into Hollywood that basically movies are made with the marketing data on whether or not it's going to be big in China. Like the Chinese, so the poster issues. I don't know if you guys remember the issues with black characters on posters for like the Avengers. That all stemmed from the fact that the Chinese aren't really big on black folks, and they want to see beautiful Anglo-Saxon looking folks on their posters, right? So then, the Chinese posters for Black Panther, his face is covered. The American posters, his face is not covered, like things like that. But so that was just making that point from earlier. But I'm just gonna say, I think Corey's right. Like I don't remember ever having beef or hearing my family have beef with Jewish folks. Yeah, there was the the riots. There was the riots and everything like that, but that was a single issue that got blown up, and then the media made it us against them, and it wasn't like, it's not like black folks just sit on their stoop saying, these Jewish motherfuckers, you know what I mean? So that doesn't happen like that. But yeah, that's actually an awesome comment right there. Jews don't look at blacks as the enemy because they don't look at us as a threat to them. Part of that is true. I think we're not, as a people, we're not organized on their level.
Mm.
And that's part of why they don't view us as a threat. They view us as a means to an end, the end being money.
Yeah.
Look at the music industry. Hip hop as it is now was not necessarily, it's an offshoot of the real culture. As somebody from the South Bronx, I'm gonna tell you straight up, hip hop today, hip hop as it mutated in the 90s, that's all corporate. That was basically the same stuff that's happening with the Black Lives Matter movement, where it got co-opted by the corporations.
We'll get there. We will get there, Jordan. We'll get there. But it is so interesting.
But you get what I'm going with that, right?
Yeah,
So we had culture.
It was engineered.
Exactly. We had our own culture, and then somebody said, "Oh, we can make money off of that," and then they did what they wanted to do with what we created. But speaking of hip hop, shit, I remember when the Beastie Boys came out, and at first people were like, "White Jewish boys, what?" And then they heard them, and they were like, "Yo, these dudes are this is peace and love." Like people gave Eminem crap, right, when he came out, but the Beastie Boys went through a little bit of that too, and it was never about their race. It was more about just, hey, these are people who don't typically do this. I remember that, but they proved that hip hop and black culture is accepting, so long as you show due respect. And I feel like they did. I feel like most Jews do. They will talk about their time as slaves. They will talk about the fact that people have systematically tried to eradicate them. And then they'll relate it to what we've gone through. I've had deep conversations with that with like my Jewish friends. They are hated throughout the world. We're on some levels hated around the world. We're not enemies. So I think all of that other stuff was, like someone said, it was a PR stunt.
Okay. So before I come to Ray, let me just hit this. So Real Deal says, can't serve two gods. Thank you for the super chats, Real Deal. Can't serve two gods. Nick chose money over real history. So that I will say, I need to do the research. I think we should always be willing to have a conversation and a debate. That is the key thing. I'm willing to. You have to first do your research. But this is what people need to understand. Nick Cannon is an entertainer. He's from Nickelodeon. He dances, he cracks jokes, he wears a turban. He's an entertainer. Why? And this goes back to what we said at the beginning of the stream. Why the heck are we waiting to be led socially by dancers, rappers, entertainers, or people with big asses? Ray, thoughts on this whole anti-Jewish thing? Is it real? Is it fake? Thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm about to save a ton of money on Christmas presents because some people ain't going to talk to me after this. So let's work down the line here. Anti-Semitism is real. And for some odd reason, I think someone said it before, it's unfortunately real inside the black community. I've done a lot of research in history, not more than anyone else for guarantee, but I don't remember no stories about Jews walking down the street beating up black people. I don't remember no stories, never came across them of Jews burning down the black side of town. I don't know no stories of Jews doing all the things that were done to us. I have no stories of Jews owning all the slave plantations. None at all. Even this conversation, I see a room full of black people who spend half their lives saying that black people ain't a monolith. And this whole conversation has been about how Jews are a monolith. So we spend half our time demanding a certain level of respect for ourselves and refusing to give it to others. I say that's one of the highest indications of weakness I've ever seen. If we ain't a monolith, Jews ain't a monolith. I have met Jews that don't like black people. I've also met Jewish girls that only date black guys. So they can't be going to the same monthly meetings for Jews of the world. I heard someone say earlier that Nick Cannon made comments about Jews, but he also made worse comments about whites, but only the Jewish part got attention. So that's proof that Jews got power. Well, you know what? If a white guy makes comments about black people and white people, his comments about black people are going to get more attention. Does that mean that blacks have all the power? I think you're misconstruing some things here, gentlemen. Just because something gets more attention, that does not translate to having the power. It is possible, not a guarantee. It is possible that what that means is that society is trying to progress forward, and they are acknowledging the fact that if someone sits around talking about the people in power all day, that is completely different than talking about the people who are not in power all day. Even how we're going through earlier about who's white and who ain't. I'll speak for America. White is a construct that in 1920, certain people were not a part of it. I'll say Italians and Irish, for example, they were not a part of the definition of white officially in America in 1920. In 1940, they were. So what I think you are sometimes talking about is because it's such a fake made up thing, you have individuals who pick and choose when they want to be white. And I'm going to tell you this right now. If you gave me that power to be what I want to be when it makes sense for me, I'd be doing the same thing too. I'd be doing the same exact thing. When I'm walking in the bank asking for a loan, I'm white. When I'm walking down the street and they're rioting, I'm black. I would do the same thing. And if you're claiming you wouldn't, you're a damn lie. So this false, even like, even how we're talking about, oh, they own Hollywood. I keep asking the same question. Where did you get that from? Because when I do my research, when I go back in time, you know where that originates? With Hitler. That originates with the German Nazi Party. So if you got it, it's possible you got it from somewhere else. Maybe you did some research. Maybe you're like, nah, Ray, I did my research. And for 2019, these are the top Hollywood studios, and this is how much money they made, and this is who in charge, and all their names end with Stein or Stein. Maybe you did it. Show it to me. Most cats spitting that don't got it. All they got is feelings. Feelings is all they got. Coming back to Hollywood in America, someone said it earlier, that ain't true. The number one source of movies in this world is Bollywood, not Hollywood. For every movie coming out of Hollywood, there's 3 to 4 movies coming out of Bollywood. Now, maybe what you meant to say is where is most of the money going? American movies make more money. But as far as where most movies are, that's Bollywood for sure. So I like what you said earlier on this black anti-Semitism. That is so crazy to me. A white dude hit you in the face and then told you to hate MS-13, Mexicans, and Jews, and you went with him. You went with it. That is so amazing to me. Now, this overarching thing that y'all seem to agree with, where you can like Jewish people but hate Israel. I see 2 paths for that. Israel is a product of America. So I could maybe see you saying you don't like what Israel stands for. But if you don't like what Israel stands for, you really need to be saying you don't like what America stands for. You cut American defense funding, you cut Israel off. So if you got a beef with Israel, you got a beef with America. Just be real about it. Just go to the source of the money. Follow the money. But that's really what I'm hearing right now. And I guess my last thing here, our culture, hip hop, you got to look at black people. We had nothing in America. In America, everything was taken from us. The only thing that we had was merit. You got slaves stripped of everything. The only thing you had was yourself, meaning if you had better cracks than the other guy, which is why we do Jonesin, your mama jokes. If you had a better rhyme or flow, we are a merit-based culture because that was the only thing that couldn't be taken from us. We weren't poor because we were stupid. We were poor because we were denied. We didn't have things for that reason. So when it comes to Beastie Boys and Eminem, it makes absolute sense that we gave them credit where credit was due because that's our culture. If you can get into the cipher and you can spit that game and you got the skills, it don't matter where you come from. That's how we do things. So to me, it would be outside of our culture if Beastie Boys or Eminem was the best one spitting, but we didn't give them that credit because that's how we've always done things.
Okay. Juan, Thoughts on this?
Oh, my thoughts. Hey, how you doing, Hope?
Yeah,
Back on the show again. Want to say thank you for having me again. My thoughts. I'm gonna keep it simple. I'm not gonna have a long way to answer like these dudes be having. I was fucking with you guys, but I think when I was growing up, I didn't hear anything bad about Jews in my family, anything like that. Growing up in Florida, I have a really different view about it. The way I look at it is very simple, right? People try to put Jews in a different category, like, oh, white people and Jewish people. I'm sorry. No one knows somebody is Jewish until they open their mouth. When a black person walks in the door, they see their skin color. They don't know their religion. They don't know their cultural background, anything. So when people say that, oh, that Jewish people, have the same ideology as black, we hang out like think of Corey was saying. But in reality, I'm not saying they own Hollywood. I don't agree with all these sayings that people say. But if you do look at Netflix, it's about a lot of movies about the Holocaust, though. We damn sure know about that history. But I guarantee there's a lot of African Americans don't know about Black history. What people know about, they don't know about our history. But we damn sure learned in school about the Holocaust, though. Their movement is a lot more bigger than their pain, and their movement is definitely known a lot more than ours. People can say anything they want on TV about Black people. Now they're getting reprimanded. But Jewish, you said anything about a Jewish, you get ran off TV.
There's a big difference, though, brother. The reason why you have all these movies about World War II and how the Jews were done bad, because America gets to point at someone else and say someone else was the bad guy.
Yeah, I get that point. But still, the way I look at it, that shit happened in Europe. White people's doing it to white people. Because we don't know any history that goes on what happened to slave. Do you know what happened to the slave trade in Africa? It happened in Nigeria. Do we know everything what happened? No, we don't. We don't even know any history of West Africa. I'm gonna be straight. Like, Jewish people are a lot more together. They got in Israel. You can go back to Israel if you have Jewish blood to actually go there, live there, get a citizenship. And in Israel right now, they don't fuck with Black people. The Ethiopians, they don't consider them even Jewish people. They want to run them out. So what Nick Cannon said, did he say something fucked up? Yeah, I mean, we joined that, but I think people make this long-winded about America. This, man, I'm sorry, it's just white people killing white people. It was in World War II, it looked like white people killing white people. I'm sorry. I mean, how does it affect us? We are lost people, and we don't even know our own culture. I don't give a shit what Nick Cannon said anything about Jews.
What do you think German soldiers did when they ran the all-black units, bro? Since you want to speak on history, what do you think Germans did? Do you think they said, you know what, this is white on white, y'all got to pass? Because they did that in Vietnam.
You understand my point, what I'm saying. I don't give a shit about what Nick Cannon said about a Jew. I'm caring about what Black people do.
I don't think I mentioned that man's name, so you don't got to mention his name back to me.
I'm just saying,
we need about reality of the war.
Okay, finish your point.
What I'm saying that I think Black people need to worry about Black people. Nick Cannon didn't need to make a comment about Jewish people. They need to think about what's going on in our community. We need to learn from Jewish people how to put our dollar and we circumvent our dollar and be just like them and put our money in the right place. We have all this influence. They love our music, but they still hate us. Why we got all this? Look at Michael Jordan. What money he's recirculating in the environment. We have all the power in the world to do 2 times better what Jewish people do. Do we do it? I'm not going to sit here and talk about what Jewish people do or what they hate and all that. That's the problem with Black people. We too worry about what other people are doing. We need to worry about what we're doing in our community because we're not together.
Okay, so before I go to Daniel and I'll probably come back to you, Ray. I just think that's just what I've always said again. Living with Jewish people, living in an area that is heavily Jewish is for Black people, especially Black people in America. Learn from how certain people operate, and you can learn so much from how Jewish people operate and how hard they work and how diligently they work to support one another. Something you can learn from. Daniel, hit it. Thoughts on this whole thing?
I think it's interesting listening to the gentleman you have. I mean, you guys want to research. I mean, all stereotypes not all, but most stereotypes come from a place of truth. So somebody said they wanted research, right? So the first major Hollywood studios in LA they're called the Big Five. It's Paramount, Columbia, 20th Century Fox, Universal, and Warner Brothers. We're all familiar with them. they were all founded by people of Jewish descent. So all of their parents, they came from Hungary, they came from Germany, they came from wherever, but they were all founded by Jewish people. So that's where the idea, Jewish people run Hollywood, that's where that comes from, because the major 5 studios when Hollywood started were all founded by people. Well, there were obviously some different kinds of white people that were their partners, but the majority of them were all Jewish. So that's where that narrative comes from. The Jews run Hollywood. And it's because the major 5 were all founded by Jewish people. You can do the research. Wikipedia.
I've done the research, so please let me know when you're done. So, because one of us is full of shit, so we might as well get it out right now.
Okay. No. Paramount Pictures was founded by a guy called Adolf Zucker, who was a Hungarian Jew. And he had 2 other partners who were also Jewish. One of them's name was Lansky. He was born in a Jewish family in San Francisco, California. Universal was founded by many people, but the key guy was Carl Lammel, I think is how you pronounce his name, and he was born to a Jewish family in the German kingdom of Württemberg. RKO Pictures was another one.
That's
one of the major ones.
It's a German kingdom, Württemberg.
Yeah, but the guy was Jewish. Another one was RKO Pictures, a guy named David Sarnoff, who was also born to a Jewish family in Belarus. MGM was founded by Jewish entrepreneurs, Marcus Lowe, Goldwyn, you get it.
Goldwyn and Mayer.
Yep. 20th Century Studios, or 20th Century Fox, was founded by William Fox, who was a Hungarian Jew. Both of his parents were Hungarian Jews. And he had 2 other partners named Schneck and Zanuck, who were also Jewish. So Wikipedia is there for you, dog. Like, you can go read it.
Let me know when you're done, bro. I hear you spitting. Let me know when you're done.
I'm done now. If you have a retort, I mean, if you're gonna tell me that,
you're still talking. Go ahead.
No, if you're gonna,
no. Wait. So because really, Daniel, so.
If he's gonna tell me that like those people didn't exist and like it's some conspiracy that's on Wikipedia, then okay.
No, but I wanted to get everyone's thoughts first of all on: do you feel there is still massive anti-Jewish sentiments within the world, and you're using the whole anti-Semitism thing?
Well, yes,
we can get back to retorts.
Of course, I'm not saying anti-Semitism. You can debate the semantics of Semitism if you want, but we all know what you mean. I'm not going to say that doesn't exist. Of course, it exists, but these things they exist for reasons.
What reason is that?
I just gave you the reason. People say that the Jews control Hollywood. If you go back and look who founded the major studios, they just happen to be Jewish people. That's not a bad thing. It's just the history.
But don't every race or religion have some sort of negative connotation towards it, though? So why are we just pointing out Jews for it? Don't Arabs have it? Muslims have it? Blacks have it? Asian have it?
The thing about it, though, is that I think the thing that people don't realize that when you think about the span of control, that the reason why people have this attitude towards Jews is because they control what we see, what we perceive. Hollywood, I mean, pretty much
is the most powerful tool you can have in
the most powerful tool on the planet. The pen.
Well, no. This
basically media is the pen.
The reason that people have an issue with Jewish people, at least this is how I perceive it, it's because they think they have power, and then there's this specter of like, they're using this power for bad. And then Jewish people hear people say this, and they're like, wait a minute, because one of the major things you hear Jewish people say is never again, because this is how the concentration camps and Hitler started. Because after World War I, the German political parties and the right wing and all these kinds of people were just basically like, look, the reason we lost World War I was because of these powerful Jews who were making decisions, and they made sure that we lost the Great War. So then political parties like the Nazis and the fascists or whatever were just cool with like, hey, all the Jewish people, we can just kill them all. And that started because of Jewish people have power. So I understand if a Jewish person hears Nick Cannon kind of play those same chords, they're like, wait a minute, this sounds eerily similar to what I've been told my whole life that should never happen again. But then this is where it's almost a catch-22, Because if you look at who owns Viacom, it's a person named Redstone, and the translation of Rothschild is Redstone. So then you look at Nick Cannon and you're like, well, you work for Viacom CBS and it's owned by a Jewish person or founded by a Jewish person. So it's like that catch-22 of like, you can't win for losing almost. If you're Jewish, like, are you going to give up your studios? That doesn't make any sense.
Why?
But then people will point to it and be like, well, you control the studio, so you're obviously doing something nefarious.
But see, that is where I started off with it, because obviously I want to get back to Ray, who obviously wants to respond, but I began with, you can't make that leap based off the statement. So the statement is, this is why I thought to begin with that they may not own most of the studios, but the most powerful studios. I told you, I've been a film merchant ever since I was young. And me and my brothers have always said that, yeah, man, you say anything against Jews, they control Paramount, 20th. So the biggest studios, the most famous studios, not like Annapurna or any of these indie studios, the big major studios that have been around since the beginning are controlled by people of Jewish origin. And what happens is it's a lineage. So like Metro Golden and Mayer, the Golden guy, he is in Scandal. The actors in Scandal, and he is from a lineage of a Jewish family who they pass this thing down. They pass it down. My thing is, if you control Hollywood and media, it isn't a leap to say you now are now using it. You're now using that power for evil. But I just think it's maybe a fear of Jewish saying, man, if we just get this whole thought that we own most of these dudes, it will now bring in this sentiment that we're using it for evil. So Ray, you wanted to respond to the
Yeah, so the part of the Wikipedia that wasn't recited. So you're hearing about the 5 major Jewish studios. So let's just go down the line.
I didn't say the 5 major Jewish studios.
Hold up, bro.
I said the 5 major Hollywood studios.
I listened to you talk, bro.
No, but you're misconstruing my argument.
Fair enough. Top 5, are they Jewish?
Let him talk. Let him talk.
Okay. Wait, Dan, you'll have chance to respond.
No. It's almost like he was using Jewish as a pejorative, as if I said it in a pejorative way.
So that's what we're gonna do now. I mean, can I talk or not?
Go ahead.
Go for it.
So here's the thing. I don't care what your business or industry or market is. None of them start out with major players. Whether we're talking Hollywood or cell phones, you start out in a market that has a whole bunch of people, and then it conglomerates forward. Now, after you have these major players, here's the real question. Where does the money come from? Hollywood started out. Why did they pick Hollywood? 2 big reasons. 1, a lot of sun. That's really what it was. A lot of sunlight. You're trying to shoot movies, good weather. 2, cheap land. You got to remember when they first went out there was nothing out there. It was just desert. It was just like Nevada. So the whole reason Hollywood became Hollywood was cheap land and a lot of sun. So you had people looking to make a name for themselves who went out there. A lot of people lost everything. It was no different than the California gold rush. Now, as crews built up and got bigger and combined and all that stuff, you then got to ask this question. Who is the money? If I look at rap right now, it looks like the black people have some conspiracy. Man, black people control rap. Nobody can really get in. You have a couple players, but all the real rap crews are black. Nah, homie. Look at the money behind the people. Look at the money behind the faces. I hear cats spitting about these Jewish names who own the studios. Who bankrolled it? You're not going to Jewish names no more, especially in America. You're going to German names when you go there. You're going to all the other conglomerates of white America. Coming back to what I mentioned the last time I was on here, Bank of America was originally called Bank of Italy. Bank of Italy was founded here. So when you hear those cats spitting all that Rothschild Illuminati garbage, nah, that's not where they got that money from. They got that money directly from the U.S. government when the U.S. government said, we want you to build housing for white people, and we will give you the money to do it and the credit for it. That's where Bank of America came from. Well, I mean, Bank of Italy during those times. Bank of Italy then took that money and started bankrolling Hollywood because Bank of Italy was based out of California. I'm not saying any of those mentions of those names of those studios is wrong. I'm saying the conversation stopped short of who bankrolled it. So this analogy that because the people on the front happen to be Jewish, which I'm not disputing that's the whole story. I'm saying that anybody who sells you that is either ignorant to what I just told you about the money behind it, or they know it and they're trying to sell an agenda coming back to Hitler. Hitler and them sold that because, and I'll give you another slant to look at this, okay? If it's solely that we talk about Jews controlling things because of Hollywood, why is it we have history going back to the 1300s and the 1400s of Jews being expelled for controlling everything? The Sephardic Jews were kicked out of Spain and Portugal in the late 1400s, early 1500s, because they were controlling everything. Even though records show they didn't, they had a couple banks, but because they stuck together, they were hated and they passed damn laws to kick them out, which is why those Sephardic Jews came early on to America and they started up what I think we call it the Garment District now in New York. They were the original people coming here. No matter where they went, people saw them trying to take care of themselves and they became an enemy. So all I see is because some people had gone through some shit and they tried to adjust and keep to themselves, that made them more enemies. And it allows people to spin these damn conspiracy theories. Nothing that I said contradicts the fact that the top 5 are Jewish. It adds context to the story of who profits from it. You guys mentioned it earlier about China. China doesn't like black faces. There's people who are trying to invest their money. They have option A, try to tell Chinese people to feel a different way, or option B, make that money. Which is why people who really don't maybe feel the way the Chinese feel, but they also don't give a damn. So when they decided to spin out that movie, they gave the Chinese what they wanted, which when it comes to capitalism, I'm not saying it's the right answer. Capitalism has always done that. Give people what they want. So that's what happened. Whether you're talking about Black Panther or even Hollywood, making Spartacus movies versus making, Nat Turner movies. You saw they made the movie about Nat Turner and the slave rebellion. America didn't celebrate that story. Even though it was a story about slaves fighting for freedom, that one wasn't popular. Spartacus was. What's the difference? One of them, you got to watch that movie and you feel a little convicted if you're living in America. The other one, you get to say, yeah, those Romans, get it. So there are some objective differences between these conversations that I consistently hear not mentioned when a Nick Cannon talks. He's not wrong when he mentions today, that's what it is. But Nick Cannon doesn't seem to go deeper and ask how and why.
So just a comment on that. So Levi says, yeah, but just because they were bankrolled by other old white money or institutions, once they made it big, they paid back that money and made it big themselves, though. So what are we talking about?
This person must know more than me. I'm not aware of a single major Hollywood studio that doesn't carry debt, but I don't follow them all. I follow stocks, I follow carnivals, I follow the Hollywood studios that are publicly traded. I'm personally unaware of a single one not carrying public debt. They must know something I don't.
Okay, so I want to ask you guys this, I want to maybe take things to the next level here. So again, I sort of mentioned this a bit, and this was something new to me. So again, I came from Nigeria, my primary, my nursery school was in Nigeria, and then came to England. So there were a few things about the world that I didn't know, living within this sort of bubble that was Nigeria back then. So, but one thing that kept on being said a lot in school in England was, don't be such a Jew. Don't be such a Jew. Oh, you're such a Jew. You're such a Jew. You're such a Jew. And I even caught my family member even saying one time that, oh my gosh, thinking, don't be such a Jew. Like, what? It's like, but you can't say that. So here's my question here. And also, let me say again. So in my previous job, my boss was Jewish. I used to sell kilts online, and my boss was Jewish. And I think I can't remember how the conversation went, but it was somewhere in the context of him liking money. And he even admitted himself, he was a Jewish guy, that, yeah, look, man, I love money. So my question is this. The stereotype is out there. Is it true? Oh, one more thing as well. So so we see. So there's this place in England called Golders Green, and it's a very, very, very Jewish area. Called Golders Green. I remember, so there was this shopping place that I went to, and then I got my stuff and everything. I know, so normally you know when you go at the till, you look at your receipts and everything. And I think it's a Hasidic Jew. So once he had his stuff, he was literally, and he ordered loads of stuff. He was looking at the price for everything and checking the receipts. And I looked at the lady, the cashier lady, just stare at the guy saying that, "What, you think I made a mistake?" You know? So here's my thing here. And this is the question to all of you guys. So I don't know whether you've dealt with Jews, not dealt with Jews or not. So obviously it will obviously help if you have dealt with Jews, because that would be much more authentic like I have, or if you've lived in Jewish areas. Do you believe that the sentiment is true that Jewish people do have a particular love for money, or that is just fake and that is just another anti-Jewish conspiracy?
Everybody loves money. Like I don't know one community that doesn't care about money, like that doesn't do everything they can to make money. So
see, that's my thing, is like, where does that come?
I don't think there's any like genetic DNA inclination in Jewish people that makes them love money more. You know what I mean?
Come from of don't be such a Jew, relating to don't be so tight with your money. Where does that come from? That's what I want.
Where does don't be black come from? If I get mad at
jealous people,
and he's like, "Man, you acted black as hell," where does that come from? Do only black people punch people in the face? It comes from the same place. Basically, you're asking the same question. When Ben Shapiro comes up and says, "You guys are 13% of the population, but 50% of the violence," that's your culture. Let's use that same logic on ourselves. We must be ignorant because we get the lowest test scores. We must be genetically stupid. We fill the federal prisons, so we must be genetically criminals. If you're going to play that game with Jews, play it across the board, bro. If you're going to say that stereotypes come from a place of reality, apply it to your own people. Apply it to yourself. Now, if that don't feel good, maybe stop saying that shit.
Well, which is why, and that is the thing, because again, I don't want to. It was a family member that said this, and I had to say, "Whoa, you can't say that. That's crazy." And that is a crazy generalization to make, and especially from us as well, how people have made generalizations of us. You're the last person from our culture who should be saying, "Man, don't be such a Jew," having a very generalization of Jewish people with money.
When I was coming up in real estate, there was it was an Italian town. Like literally, they had the 5 families. And I remember I met one of the patriarchs from one of the 5 families, older guy. And I've been dealing with his kids and his grandkids. And I was like, man, these guys are dicks. So I'm sitting there with the old man, and he says to me, he starts talking, and turns out he don't like his own kids and grandkids. And this is the story that he told me. He said, when we were going through it all, we swore to ourselves that nobody would treat us how we were treated. They would not treat anybody like that again. He says, where we failed is our children. They heard us say, no one will treat us like that again. So coming back to your point, you do have people who've been persecuted who don't see themselves persecuting. When I went to Dominican Republican natives, DR natives, they would sit there and talk to me as a Black American about how the white people treated them. And then they would pause and treat the Haitians like garbage. I watched how Arabic women overseas would talk about how they were treated like property. And then they would pause and beat a slave. Because, you know, they still got slaves over there. Servants. They call them servants. They don't call them slaves. They call them servants. So at the same time, I know Black people who sit around talking about the man all day. They talk about the man all day. And then they'll pause and talk about Jorge or Eduardo. So all I'm hearing is what is not unique across ethnicities is selfish ass people. People who will spend half their day talking about their freedoms and their rights, and then spend the other half of their day talking trash about other people So it comes back to this. William Easterly, great economist, wrote a book called Tyranny of Experts. He says, and I quote, oppression is a crime of opportunity. All we're hearing right now is that, unfortunately, the average person, if you give them an opportunity to impress somebody else or oppress somebody else, most people will take it. Unfortunately, most people will take that opportunity if you give it to them. And that's all we're talking about right now.
So Sam, you want to jump in on this, the whole sense of Jewish people and money, Sam?
I mean, honestly, as far as adding to that, I don't like, as far as them, I'd say I'm almost in the terms of what Juan says. Like, I could really care less about how they are with money, because they're not real. Because in terms of power and influence, I mean, yeah, they some of them are in the media, but but they're not the ones that are really hurting us. That is the general culture. I mean, it's a general culture that are the ones that are having those areas where they're hurting us. But in all honesty, like I said, they don't really bother me.
Oh, Corey?
Yeah, I'll just keep it short and say that, like Daniel, I think his name was said, man, who doesn't love money? Who, and who loves money more than Americans? Okay, we worship the almighty dollar more than God. It didn't used to be that way, but it is now. Okay, I don't have that much experience with Jews. I've only dated Jewish women, and their families, for the most part, were pretty cool. You know, I mean,
Hey,
to be honest,
bro, I was on J-Date. I was on J-Date. It worked out very well.
Hey, we never talked about race. Me and my Jewish exes. If I noticed anything with money with them, it's just that they were all cognizant of not wasting money. But shit, Germans are like that. If you've ever been to Germany, Germans are tight as fuck with money. So I mean, what do you say about them? You know, but I didn't see anything that would make me think that they have some kind of pathological attachment to coin.
Fam,
Like,
every African uncle is stingy with cash, bro. Every African uncle is stingy as fuck with cash. Like,
Specifically uncles, huh?
every uncle.
Okay, what's it called? Juan.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with what the other guys were saying. I think it's just stereotypes. America likes to brand people with stereotypes with African Americans, Mexicans. So I just think it's just something that's just pretty much made up. And I do agree with my man over there with the bow, with the tie, nice tie on. He was saying
He said bow tie.
It's called Ray.
Muslim in his head.
With the Muslim bow tie.
I mean, there's a lot of contradiction.
I should put name tags. There you go.
Okay, it's Raymond. Yeah, so it's a lot of contradiction. We do, like, African Americans do talk about certain people and vice versa. Jewish people. So we live in a society that humans do this is by nature. We always try to build a division and have just stupid stereotypes. Every we do, everybody does it. All countries have stereotypes. So I don't think there's no really any attachment to that. I mean, to me, it's a good attachment, man. I mean, to me, Jewish people have all good fucking stereotypes. You're tight with money, that's me good. You're not like some rapper spending and buying on gold change. I mean, I'm sorry, man. It ain't that fucking bad hard out there for Jews, man. Come on, man. I'm just saying, man. I mean, I'm gonna say that again. All right, but I'm done. But
let me take just a quick analogy. Asians in America, okay? So I was talking to a guy, his family came from Vietnam. So his parents came over during the bad times. It wasn't easy getting here. Once they got here, let's just say America did not roll out the red carpet for them. They just came in during the Vietnam War. So his family and his community kept their heads down. They stayed together. They kept their heads down. So he's a little bit younger than me, and his parents. So we're talking about Black Lives Matter. So he comes from a community in Houston, a Vietnamese community. They've kept to themselves. And one of the business members of the community put up a Black Lives Matter sign. The entire Vietnamese community went to this cat's house and said, take that shit down. You're drawing attention to us. So what the younger Vietnamese are like is, why don't our parents care? Why don't they want to fight for freedom? So I was speaking to them and I was like, listen, your parents aren't bad people. You got to respect where your parents came from. They came out through the war. And let's just say America wasn't nice about who came. If you had money or connections, you got to come. They then got here, were treated like trash. And even how today America will often say, why can't blacks act like the Asians? When people say that, they don't give a damn about Asians. Really what they're saying is, why can't you be a good dog like them?
Yep.
That's really all they're saying.
The model minority myth.
So coming back to that kid I'm talking to about his family, I was like, I got no beef with your pops, because your pops is telling you what he did to survive, and what parent wouldn't try to pass that down?
All right, Daniel.
I already went, man. People have catch. Although I will add this though, I do think there's an air of like, I don't know if it's jealousy is the right word, but it's just like longing. I wish, because I do think people look at the Jewish community and they see the perceived solidarity that they think exists, and they're like, damn, I wish we had enough self-discipline and enough culture in order to do that. So I do think the stereotype of, oh, they're stingy with cash and this and that. On one hand, it's pejorative and it's meant to make fun. But on another hand, I do think, like, is it Juan who's like, yo, it's a good stereotype. I don't know if there's a such thing as a good stereotype, but there is that notion that I wish we could be more like them, even if the them is a false them. It's like a fake image that we hold. Oh, the Jewish community is this pillar of this and that. Like it's a fake image, and I think most Jewish people would tell you we're not all like that.
So Daniel, I gotta ask you a question, Daniel. But do those stereotypes end up getting killed by the police, get them thrown in jail, and not get them a job?
Exactly, brother. There's a difference between fear and danger. Fear is made up imagination. Danger's real. And that's really what you're covering. Even I understand where you're coming from, what you said, man. But here's the thing. You said it as if it's a fact that we don't have it in our culture. You're saying it as if our people never did it and then had those cities.
No.
No, I don't mean you. It's just in general. It's said. Let me say it that way. It's said. Why can't black people in America pool their resources? Why can't they build up? We have 150 years of freedom.
Yeah, they must not know
of black people putting all their money together in a bank, and white people taking that shit, and because they legally couldn't testify against whites, nothing happened.
Bro, like
over and over and over again, building up. We weren't allowed to buy housing. The moment we were, they refused to sell us houses. So when I keep hearing people talking about our culture, I'm not seeing, when I check the line, when I go down the line, I'm not seeing the issue being that black people just lazy and never tried. I'm seeing a ton of black people on average being like every other race, trying to get by, but not getting to the same place. Something's happening in between. I don't think it's lack of intent. I don't think it's an inferior culture. And I honestly have to go further and say the evidence supports my statement. We as a people are not the issue. You know, animals, when you hunt them, you can tell animals that through the generations, their ancestors were hunted. So if you hunt deer in an area, the first couple deer, maybe they've never seen men before, but some kind of way they pass it down through the hereditary line of when you see it run, they see it, they run. If black people, generation after generation after generation, when they banded together, had their towns burnt to the ground, shot, hung, women raped, why is it unreasonable that when you look at the black people that you think aren't doing right, you know, because we all love, even us black people love to do that. We love to look at the black people at the very bottom of the barrel and ask them, what are they doing? Even though nobody does this, nobody goes to Kentucky and looks at that white boy choking up on meth and opiates and everything. No one asks him, what are you doing, bro? As a representative of white people. We love doing it with black people. So let's go with it. Why don't we acknowledge that some of the reason why he doesn't and his father doesn't and his father doesn't is because through many generations, whenever they did anything other than keep their head down low and do nothing, they were met with violence. I'm not saying hard times. I'm not saying being denied the job. I'm saying straight up violence. We have been, quote unquote, civil rights is what? What year do you want to pick? You want to pick the 60s? How about the 70s? You've had 50 years. A country that's coming up on 300 years old. I remain amazed that after all that time, we keep asking Black people, why haven't you figured it out? But at the same time, I shouldn't be amazed, because a month after Abraham Lincoln was shot, Andrew Johnson went up to the podium at the White House and he said, and I quote, "We have carried the Black slave long enough. It's time for them to fend for themselves." It would be 8 years later that they gave away all that land to whites only for the Homestead Act. So we have a history in this nation of giving everybody shit for free except for Black people. And when we do give Black people something, it's proof of them being slackers and having an inferior culture.
Yep, I agree.
So for this last hour, and I think that's a really great segue for us to roll into this last hour, is so obviously we sort of began this series, dealing with the protests that, of course, and with the whole Black Lives Matter movement. So I just thought it's very good. It's good for us to just track the progress of its potency, its effectiveness, and what stage is it at now. So here's my thing, and this is what I've sort of deduced it down to, which is the 3 stages. The movement itself in its very raw, unfiltered form, then that movement then becomes organized, and once it becomes organized, it then becomes an institution. And I think that is what has happened or is happening with Black Lives Matter, BLM. So see, Black Lives Matter as a statement, as a movement, I think is important. Because Terry Crews, if you're listening, Black Lives Matter is not about Black supremacy. Black Lives Matter is about Black people don't matter. Black people don't matter in America. And just about actually the Black life being worth something in America, which it hasn't really been for such a long time based on the history of America. It's a larger thing. But we'll get to Terry, because I know what Terry is about. Terry is protecting his white money. I get it. But my thing is that movement needs to get organized. It's important to get organized, because once you're organized, it is more likely for you to be forceful and more effective in your change, rather than just a movement that doesn't really have any kind of direction.
Have hope. I have a quick question. Would you say the Black Panthers were ever institutionalized?
No.
Because they weren't. They weren't like they.
Yes and no. Yes and no.
They mobilized and then they organized, but I don't think they were ever institutionalized by the United States.
You see that because they were organized, and you could argue the organization was like an institution. But the key thing is that institution, that word institution, is an external force that makes you into something very specific, which is where BLM is going into.
You see.
Because I want to get your thoughts.
Land it.
So my thing about it is that I believe Black Lives Matter has now become, or is becoming, an institution which is dangerous now. Because I say to myself that I look at, like, again, living in the UK, if you now watch sports, there literally is like a Black Lives Matter advert all the way through. So when you're watching sports, all the ads are sometimes related to Black Lives Matter somehow. So this, because I think, and also they said, I don't know whether it was Time Magazine, that this is the biggest movement in history in terms of its global reach and how many people have sort of been affected, how many people have sort of repeated its slogan or movements around the world. It is the biggest movement, so that's in history. But I've just been very wary about this, and this is where I want to get your guys' overall view on this, because I've heard it's leftist propaganda, I've heard it's Marxist, I've heard it's owned by an old rich white dude. So I'll come first to Sam with this. Where do you stand right now with Black Lives Matter, and what are your emotions when you hear the words Black Lives Matter and BLM right now? Are you like me, where it's like, I'm for the movement, but it's becoming something very dangerous now that I don't really recognize? Where do you stand with the BLM thing now?
All I'm gonna say, HH, pull up the Black Lives Matter website and pull up their mission statement.
Bingo.
Hey, I just gotta say, man, at some point you gotta not let me go last because it always looks like I'm just shitting on people to shit on people. You gotta let me go first.
You will always go last. No, Ray, you are anchoring this thing.
Yo, let Raymond go second on this because I know Raymond and a couple brothers who are gonna listen to what I'm gonna say. They may not like what I gotta say about Black Lives Matter. Okay, go to about. Go up to about. All right, there you go. What we believe. Go back to go to about. Go to what. Go to what.
It's like watching a man tell another man how to make a peanut
Scroll
butter
all the way down. It's at the bottom. He's talking about the 2 paragraphs at the end. I know what you're talking about. Scroll it. It's at the bottom.
No, it's not in this one. It's in about.
Trying to guide Have Hope through a website is
go.
It's very difficult.
Go scroll up.
I'm hearing like 3,000 voices. Can I just hear one voice?
This is starting to feel like a union job.
Okay, scroll up, Hope, and go to the main sections with about.
Okay, so speaking.
Sure, one speaking. Go all the way up. I'll scroll up to the top, and it says about. Go to about.
Don't click it.
It says what we believe. Second one. Okay.
Scroll down. All right, scroll down a little bit more. A little bit more. All right, hold up. Scroll down. You gotta scroll down a little. I want to go to the part where it talks about family.
Yep. The next paragraph. Okay.
People know what I'm. People who know what I'm talking about.
We see ourselves.
Exactly.
No, that's not it.
That's not it. Scroll down. Further down. Hold on.
Man, this is a lot, man.
Oh, it's family friendly.
There's much.
We make our spaces family friendly and enable parents to fully participate with their children.
Okay.
$20 for match?
Yo, scroll down a little bit. Scroll down a little bit.
Whatever, man. I know half y'all got $40 t-shirts. Keep it real.
Ray, I not on a
paragraphs right there. Bam, right those paragraphs right there. If you do a control F on this entire page, it does not talk about men. Like they only mention the word men once in this entire page, or twice.
We make our spaces family friendly and enable parents too. So let's read this. So we make our spaces family friendly and enable parents to fully participate with their children. We dismantled the patriarchal practice that requires mothers to work double shifts so they can mother in private, even as they participate in public justice work. What? Okay. We disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirements by supporting each other as extended families and villages that collectively care for one another, especially our children, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. What?
Bro, that's on the web, and I note that I didn't like paraphrase anything. That's on the fucking website. This is one of the things I have. This is one of the things why I have trust issues with the fucking.
Let's have the conversation we had out loud. What website? Whose website is this?
This is the actual Black Lives Matter website.
Whose actual Black Lives Matter? Because I live in Wisconsin, and I stood up one day and said I'm Black Lives Matter.
But hold on.
Who did I ask?
Hold on, Raymond. This is
part of the topic because this is my space. So here's the deal. So like, there's a movement and there's the organization. So this is the organization. I mean, even when you look on the right side of the page with all the hashtag fitted tee for $25. The website is a cash grab for the American left, for the DNC. I know Raymond's gonna jump into me, but
I'm not gonna cut you off. Just gonna write your name and write is a bitch next to it. Keep going.
All right, I got you. But the thing about that though is that if they really are gonna make this about Black Lives Matter, I mean the black man is one of the most important parts of the black community, because that's one of our biggest problems right now is fathers and patriarchs in the family. No society in the world, I mean, not even the West, anywhere in the world, has survived without a patriarch. And when you look at the act, when you do a search on that, there's no mention of father. There's no mention of father in there. There's no mention of man. I think man is only mentioned twice, and father is not mentioned in that page at all. And the other thing also you got to bring up about this is that internationally, the Black Lives Matter organization, not the movement, has raised almost $1 billion. I think it's somewhere in the range of $700 million from the start of the George Floyd incident to today. And my question is, where's that money going to? Is that coming back to the Black community? Are they doing that? Are they putting that into communities to help them out? Because that money could really help communities like set themselves up. I mean, that's my problem. The movement, though, I mean, it really does. But the movement on its own, that does the mass movements bring a huge disruption to the status quo and the social norms, the actual events.
Are you online shopping right now?
No. I'm just looking for, I don't know, posters are current.
Please buy that in his space while he's talking.
No. Sam, continue.
But that's the thing. Like, there's an organization and there's a movement. I'm not feeling the organization because I think the organization is a puppet for the Democratic National Party, the U.S. Democratic National Party. But I'm okay. But I'm cool with the movement because the movement actually is trying to bring violence from the state.
Man, that's all. I'll revisit you.
Okay. Corey, thoughts on this on BLM on Black Lives Matter?
Let me go a little bit later. I'm having some mic trouble right now.
Oh, okay. Juan?
I thought of it. I'm gonna go with the guy just talked. The actual page, the movement. I mean, I agree with the wording and what they're trying to do, but I don't agree with the actual movement because this actually started in California. The girls, it's 3 girls that's actually ahead of the Black Lives Matter movement. You actually can look it up. One of them married a transgender man. So all of them actually focus on LGBTQ community. If you look at it, that's why they brought up the queer community. And like at my job, a lot of people donated to Black Lives Matter to this actual thing, but they don't even know what they were actually like giving money to. And people don't even know this stuff is on the website. And you go to the website and read these things, like, okay, what is the focus at? Like, can we get back to Black people now? Or like, what are we on? I mean, we're trying to say this kumbaya, this we're all together, we're in a family. No, we all know that doesn't hurt. We all know absent broken family and absentee of father is what broken the Black community here in the U.S. But they're going against study on that. So I definitely don't agree with this Black Lives Matter website. The actual movement I agree with, but I think a lot of times what I see in the U.S. is a lot of people are kind of doing a little bit of pandering. We don't need pandering right about now. A lot of people posting black blank pages on their Instagram, on their Facebook. But do people really know what is the issue is? Black people don't need pandering. We need opportunity. We need education. We need opportunity to get into tech jobs, the emerging markets. Pandering is not a good thing. I mean, now since we're in the US, we all on this we all on this I love Black people tip. How long is this going to last until we start talking about coronavirus and everybody forget about this? I mean, is this real? Because they said this in the 60s, though. I mean, this 19th. I live in California. I was reading like all the old articles in the 70s. They were hoping our generation was going to do something. That didn't happen. So you think now the Zoomers going to do something? Man, this country is affected, diseased with racists, man. It's hard to beat 300, 400 years out of something that is involved in the culture, man. This country is fucked up. Excuse my language. So I'm sorry, donating to Black Lives Matters and doing that really don't do anything. If you don't give Black people opportunity and fix the redlining they did, we out of the Blue Deal. The school you go to is based off your property value. You go to a bad school, we will never get out of that hole. So I do agree with the agreement. I love the front page, but what's going to happen is none of what happened if the government don't change things into people in our favor to get us out of this situation. So. Like you said, they donated $700 million. Where's this money has gone at? Can somebody tell me? I don't know. Could somebody tell me where this money is going to?
That's what I want to know. That's what I want. Wait, so Mo, can you please expand on that? Say, we need pandering right now. What do you mean by that? I want to know what you mean by that. Because see, what I've always said is stop begging for white people to feel guilty and give you everything. That will never, ever, ever happen. Stop begging and pleading for white people to feel sorry for you and have a heart and give you all of the privilege that they've had. That makes no sense. Build your own. Bring up your own and build your own. Learn. Take the information for yourself, learn from them, build up your own. That is the sensible thing to freaking do. But I don't know. Daniel,
give it to Raymond, man. He's doing rings and stuff. Like, he obviously has some points. I don't really have that much to say about this.
Ray, so. Okay, Ray, hit it, Ray.
Okay, so working backwards, I always ask people to show me who did it on their own. This entire country of blood and violence could not have been possible without help from the French. I keep hearing how black people need to do it all alone. I'm not offended by that. Show me who did it on their own. Show me who did it all by themselves. Why do I always take a different path?
How much money does Michael Jordan have? How much money does Oprah have? How many billionaires that are black have all this money? And what have they done? The money is there.
I appreciate that question. Here's my question back to you. Who were the white billionaires that built America for whites? Who were they? Why are you asking me this? Because I'm saying here, why do I always have to take a different path to get to where they got to? And that's really what I keep asking every single day.
Hey, Raymond, can I ask you one question?
Yeah.
I think Hope said something. Just go ahead, Hope. Why do foreign black people do better than African Americans in the U.S.?
Oh, so this is a question for me.
Oh, I can definitely answer that.
No, Raymond.
Answer it.
Raymond. Because I mean, if you before you talk, if you look it up, East Africans.
You're gonna tell me the answer. Go ahead.
But I'm saying no. East Africans, Caribbeans actually do a lot better when it comes to the U.S.
We agree. Let me know when you're ready for the answer.
Ready.
Okay. Here's why. The reason why is it's called sampling bias, because we don't allow any and all people to get into the country. America does a really twisted thing, especially with black and brown people, where let's say you're Polish, you can be a 21-year-old Polish girl, and you can come to this country having no skills, having no education. And I will see you downtown Chicago at a fancy restaurant, sitting there with a rich man twice your age, with a visa, because you're from Poland. If you're from Uganda, you have to be Jesus. If you look at immigration law to get into this country for people from African and West Indian nations, you have to have this education level. It is a pipeline that restricts to where what you get. Technically, you get some of the best people these places have to offer. Coming back to why things are so twisted here in America.
I gotta jump to that too, because my dad was like a really top student in school, and he basically I was talking with Corey about this because Corey actually brought it up, but like my dad was like a top student in Columbia University.
So what you see here, whether it's Indians or blacks, think about India. There's a lot of poor country Indian people who would love an opportunity to come to America. They're never going to get it because you have to score at the top of your class, competing against hundreds of millions to even have an opportunity. So then you make it through that funnel, you get to America, and then Americans sit here and say, man, all Chinese people are smart. Nah, all the Chinese people you let in are smart. All Chinese people have money. No. That entire family pulled their resources together and sent one person as their spearhead, as their pathfinder. That's the only people you let in. We have a grant here in America where if you're a foreigner, you can bypass the entire visa system. $500,000 investment to a disadvantaged area. So here in Kenosha, we have a $20 million hotel that is not worth $20 million. The money came from China and India because people wanted to get to America. So they pulled the money together. They bought their visa at $500,000 each for a $20 million. So they put it toward a $20 million hotel. These people are not expecting to get their money back. They're just buying their way into the country. So when they show up, yes, the people who had $500,000 in China and India got here. So you can then sit there and say, man, why do they have so much more money? Man, why are they doing so much better? You took the top of the top and man, someone got me laughing talking about the Polish girls. I agree. I learned Polish just for it, but that's a whole nother issue. But, the idea here is you were not acknowledging the fact you did not allow a cross section from these countries. You took what America thought was the top of the top. You have to be super smart. You have to have money to get in here. And now you're trying to compare the top of a group with the entire group of blacks. That's the answer to that question. But I'd like to continue on with what I was going to say. Is this real? People say, what we're going through right now. Sam, you earlier mentioned how you don't like the website. I'm not mad at you. I'm going to tell you what I told you privately here in public. Make your own damn site, bro. I hear people talking about Christian missionaries. I don't like how these Christian missionaries go out to these places and they be handing out Bibles. They should be handing out food. They should be handing out clothes. I hear you. Prove it. Show how much you care. Get your ass on a plane and instead of handing out Bibles, hand out what you think should be handed out. That website was written by women and transgenders and you don't like it? I'm not mad at you. Show us how it's done. I got no beef with people who are more dedicated than you. They have more will than you. Right now in this world, it's a test of wills. They made the damn website. You don't like the fact they're collecting the money? You don't like what they wrote? Build another website that includes talking about men. The fact that that wording exists, I think, proves how collectively we men are shit. Because if we was really something, we would have done something to make that wording change. Instead, we're sitting here on the sideline. We're sitting here as spectators, sitting here chattering, gossiping about it instead of doing something about it like men. Coming back to the point, if you guys like, oh, is this real? Is this real? I think maybe the white liberals are controlling this. I remember this time in Ranger School where you haven't eaten in a couple days. Sam will know this story. You have this helicopter mission, and it's kind of tradition where the helicopter pilots, they bring you something to eat. So, but the idea is you only have a couple minutes to eat. So you get in the helo, you get in there, and they give you some whatever they got. You eat it as quickly as possible. Well, I remember there was this one cat. Instead of eating as fast as he could, he was running his mouth the whole time. And by the time he finished talking, we landed, and the pilots took his bag away. He never got to eat. I'm seeing that right now. Even if you're concerned about this moment not lasting forever, maybe COVID comes next week and people don't care about us no more. Today is still today. Eat, homie. Stop talking. Eat.
Can I respond to that?
Go for it.
You said that make your own website, do this, but isn't that kind of counterproductive? When I go back to my Jewish statement, do you see other Jewish people dropping bombs and hating on each other like that? They are a collective fucking group. We're not. So I'm gonna make a site.
I'll answer that. Yes, I do. They are not a monolith, but go on.
They're a lot more monolith than what we are, though.
Maybe where you sit and where you sit, I don't see that. But we can go back and forth on the evidence. I hear that spoken a lot. I see no evidence. I hear people saying about it.
You know why the evidence prevail? Because they have their money in the circle and we don't. We don't spend our money. They're actually doing a lot better than we're doing it. So I don't know how that's not true.
Well, you were someone brought that up earlier. You are naming very real outcomes, but how you got there has no logical base. Using your logic, anybody who has money did it because they came together. So Trump has money because he came together.
That's different.
Some people could have won the lot. Well, again, you see my point here. In order to stick with your logic, I have to keep applying assumptions. There's no consistent generality to it. But I'm not saying you're wrong, but every time we speak, we have to add more pieces to it for it to continue to make sense.
But a collective group and a separated group won't work. I mean, if we're not collective, how am I gonna go against and try to chop down these three black women? Even though I don't agree with them, I would not say anything against them because we're trying to get at the same purpose. So
I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm saying listen to yourself. If you're not going to chop them down, why are you talking about them now? Just keep your mouth shut.
Okay, now you just lost me, bro. You killing me right now.
I don't understand a group.
You just said you're not going to chop them down. Hold up. This is pretty simple, straightforward conversation. You said you're not going to chop them down. What are you doing right now talking about all the things wrong with the site? Did you write them? I see a contact us. Did any of you write them and say your issues about the site?
Like I said, so let me explain this. I'm not going to put it out on the air for other white people to see it, to see that we're together. You don't see.
So you're assuming no white people are watching this right now.
I'm not saying that, but I'm talking. We're on a private channel. Nobody don't know my voice, but it's different if you put in my voice and just attacking these women about certain ideologies and going against the grain. I'm trying to be constructive and concise about a situation because we are going about it. So me not expressing the feeling, not saying anything, that's a very, I'm gonna say, military mindset you have. Thank you.
I agree on military, but walk me through your logic. So you use the word constructive. So you mentioned it here in this private chat with us. How does this translate to an outcome?
I wasn't trying to have an outcome. I was bringing awareness to this chat about this situation. I'm not trying to change the world. I'm not saying I'm an activist. I'm not trying to go and preach myself as I'm bringing change. I'm bringing awareness to the site, how it's saying that it's against family, which I personally don't agree with. I think I have a right to express my feeling. I'm not saying these sisters are doing 2 or 3 times the monument shit that I'm doing, because at least they're out there, they're putting the page. I'm just saying that I don't agree with everything, because a lot of African Americans won't agree with that. If you grew up in the South, you're Christian, you go to church every day, you're going to lose focus on that. So why bring in other?
Wait, but Juan, let me ask this. Do you think in 2020, BLM as an organization or institution, how helpful do you think it can be for African Americans right now for 2020? Do you think it can still be effective?
Only thing I see, my brother, is pandering.
Expand on that. What do you mean?
Pandering means that all I see out here in California, I'm living in California, one of the most liberal states. I see a lot of black people pandering, but no changes. Like what black people need is to get in certain industries, jobs, education. I work in the tech field. There's only 4% of people that are black or brown in the tech field. I get it, the donations, but what are this money is going to? Is it constructive? Is it together? Is it going to the right places? If we don't, so if you have something in your site that's very liberal and against family, and we all know that broken family is one of the problems of the African American community. How is that constructive? I'm sorry, I don't agree. I don't believe that every liberal ideology is going to help black people. It haven't helped black people before. Everybody has this democratic liberal ideology, but how has that helped black people? How has being a Democrat and being liberal has helped the black people? I live in California, and black people do not do better out here in San Francisco. They're a lot more successful in the South and the East Coast. So I live in this very liberal city that has a big LGBTQ community, big feminist community, but you know who the last people are still getting hired is black and brown. So tell me how this ultra liberal movement is helping black people. That's what I want to know.
I guess I keep hearing you talk things that like they're facts, and I'm okay if you say they're opinions, but even your statement about how black people in the South are better off than black people in California, I don't want to paraphrase, but
I didn't say that. I just said that I said, well, what I see in a very liberal place, black people here do not do better in the West.
Okay, fair enough. So so that's okay. If you're saying what you see, then I'll only respond like this. I argue that what you see ain't the whole picture.
Of course, man. Of course not, man. No one's generalizing. No one's saying that. I don't need to keep.
Oh, I'm like you said, I'm a militant and a statistician, bro.
I said a military, not a military. I said military.
No, I said it of myself. I'm military, I'm a militant, and I'm a statistician. You didn't say it. I'm saying it. So when you hear me speak, I'm not on that anecdotal shit. I'm not about I know a guy who knew a guy. When I speak, I'm talking about generalities. And the reason for that is I want it to have as highly a likelihood of being applicable to your life as possible. Me telling you some crazy story that happened in my life, if there's no chance of it happening in your life, I'm wasting your life, bro. Unless I'm just entertaining.
Let me ask you a question. You think stats always tell the true stories since you're a statistician?
No. Stats don't.
Hold on. But you said you're a statistician because
I don't want you to mislead people here. So here's what you just did. I'm a statistician, and you asked me, hey, Ray, I want to start a new investment program, and my program is buying lottery tickets. What do you think? And I say back to you, statistically, that's a bad idea. You're not going to win. You then go buy a lottery ticket and you win. and you say that's proof that statistics is stupid. Wrong answer, bro.
I didn't say that. You put fucking words in my mouth right now.
There's a difference between probable and possible. So when I talk about aggregates, I'm only talking about what is most likely possible. Never, at least I'll speak for myself, never when I mention statistics am I saying I'm predicting with absolute certainty the future. So that should clear that up, that when I mention statistics, it is not a guarantee about what's going to happen in the future. I'm saying what is most likely to expect. Now, if you want to roll the dice, bro, roll the dice. If you put 5 bullets in a revolver and there's only one empty chamber, I'm going to tell you statistically you're going to kill yourself. You are right, though, if you say, Ray, that's not a guarantee.
You know,
if I can just my microphone's working now. If I can just come in with what I'm gonna say about
go for it.
Yeah, just real quick. I think in my opinion, the 3 main things disrupting the African American community today is lack of fathers in the home, police brutality, and lack of access to wealth. Black Lives Matter needs to be focused on those things. All this other stuff, the nuclear family, destruction of the patriarchy, LGBTQ, in my opinion, that is not related to traditional Black African American culture, their values. African Americans are actually pretty conservative. Black Lives Matter, in my opinion. Years ago, people kind of rolled their eyes on BLM a few years ago, and it's fascinating to me to see it gain such traction. And I think it's because of the death of George Floyd. Here in Germany, when I went to Black Lives Matter protests, I was looking around the crowd, and I'm wondering, if people even know they were protesting, especially these white Europeans that are protesting en masse. Do they even really know what they're protesting? If they do even know what Black Lives Matter means, I think it's not outside the realm of possibility that white support for BLM is kind of used as a proxy to push their own agenda.
I'll say this: you're partly calling me out. I'm saying that what you're saying, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying you're speaking truth right now. 3 years ago, when BLM first came out, I was a corporate guy, just how I am now. And let's just say this: in a corporate setting, I wasn't running around talking about Black Lives Matter. Even how I'm engaging you guys live, my Facebook, my social media is all open to the public. I didn't speak like this because I didn't know how it would affect my income. You feel me? Fast forward to today, when I'm doing an interview. In fact, I have an interview with a company in 30 minutes for possibly a newer, bigger position. You know what one of my first questions was when they asked me, do I have any questions? I said, I'm a BLM member. Is there going to be an issue with that? That's now one of my first questions on an interview, because I basically say, I'm now at a place in my life that if you need me to pretend to be something I'm not, we wasting each other's time. So you are not wrong when you talk about that transition. Now, I'm biased because I'm kind of defending myself. I argue that transition doesn't mean I'm fake now. And it doesn't really mean I was fake before. I was in transition.
Yeah, everyone evolves.
Right.
But you are real in what you're saying, that maybe someone's not as far as me or you. We're all on different timelines, brother.
I'm just wondering, I question the sincerity of people that I see, white people or non-Black people, let's just say, that I see outside marching or protesting in a Black Lives Matter movement. I question their sincerity, because when you ask them, why are you protesting, or what does Black Lives Matter mean, a lot of them don't know.
And
so, if I can just finish, just real quick, I've had conversations with Europeans about this. And I notice a lot of them want to tell me what racism is and what I should be upset about. I've read articles from young Black kids in the U.S. who would say that they would like to have the microphone, because you got these white activists on the stage in these BLM protests, and they are speaking more than the Black people are. And I'm just, to bring it back home to the original question, Black Lives Matters means what BLM means to me is Black people speaking up for those 3 core issues that I think are bothering us or are affecting the Black community right now. This is a popular counterculture right now, just like the hippie movement back in the 60s. It's very popular to not be a racist right now. But like Juan said before, if we don't make actual steps to fix the issues, then we're just gonna be marching and marching and marching, just throw money at this thing with no change. And that's all I have to say about that.
So let me bring in Daniel because he's not spoken yet. Daniel.
I kind of agree with my man CA. That was kind of where I was going to go with it. It's the idea that all these, you see the protests in the street, and there's a bunch of white people with the Black Lives Matter sign, I can't breathe, all of this stuff. And I guess there's something to like seeing a bunch of numbers in the streets. But then on the other hand, I'm looking at it like white people don't need to be in the streets because you have the access to the system. You can change it from within if you want to. Like, I don't need a white person to tell me my life matters. I know my life matters. But you can use the privileges that you have in the society to talk to your dad, talk to your uncle, talk to your mother, talk to your aunt, talk to your brother, talk to your sister, and they'll listen to you. You don't need to be in the street marching for like Black lives. It doesn't make sense to me. Like,
I want to jump in on this one because a lot of people try to say all this shit about like, you could talk to your mom, you could talk to your sister, you could talk to your brothers and family and all sorts of shit like that. Think about it this way, because there's a good example. I talked with Corey about this, and I saw this somewhere. So one of the number one spokespeople for Black Lives, for Trump, for President Trump, like I think her name is Kellyanne Conway. Her daughter, like first of all, she's in the process of a divorce she's already divorced, separated from her husband, but their child is doing like stuff on TikTok, Instagram, basically pushing Black Lives Matter and all sorts of stuff like that. I mean, the thing about it though is that with a lot of these kids, because the vast majority of the people who are doing this are all Zoomers. They're all like 16, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. So a lot of them are being seen by the people who can actually make the change, which are the police commissioner, police chiefs, politicians, governors, and shit like that. They're not really seen as an actual person to listen to. They're just seen as their kids. They're not like, in all honesty, some of the people who have kids here, they're not going to listen. Like if their kids are talking about something that's way off of the values that they grew up on, they're going to be like, how did my kid learn this shit? They're going to be more like that rather than like actually listening to them. So in some cases, they actually have to protest in order to get that message across. That's my counter argument to that.
I agree. I mean, I hear no different than when people talk about a Black NBA player. So you hear about a Black NBA player and he's making millions, and then you find out that one of his family members got shot in the streets. And they're like, damn, man, he makes millions and his people are out in the streets. They're grown adults. Just because you're an NBA player making millions don't mean you can tell your people to get off the streets. You're still going to have cousins acting how they want to act. You're still going to have uncles and aunts acting how they want to act. So we know this in our community, that even if you come up, don't mean you can tell all your family how to be. So why are we asking white people to control their families? Especially to Sam's point, it is the younger side of this. So they don't have the power in their family. Why are we demanding you go fix your whole family 2 generations back?
Daniel?
Also, I think there's something powerful in just seeing Black people in the streets. It's like, I don't know, there's like a diluting factor for me where I see white people, because also I think the guy below me said it as well, that are white people actually campaigning for like Black Lives Matter, or are they there as like like a Trojan horse to get in, whether it be women's rights or gay rights or whatever it is? Not that there's anything wrong with those things, but it just seems like Black people are always used as the kind of battering ram to get everybody through the door, and then you see all these other groups come through and get the privileges that Black people should be getting for the work that they put in. So I do question that, just if you study history and you just look at this.
It also is also, Daniel, like you're saying, that's what a lot of people were saying. I think it was what Corey and what Juan were talking about offline, was that they were saying that this is a proxy war between the true left and the true right, because this is the first time I would say that the U.S. has really gone polar in those directions. Because I mean, since Trump came about,
Oh yeah.
You started seeing like the true far right come about. I mean, and a lot of things caused that. I mean, Trump, basically the end of Obama's presidency, refugees around the world, and then the rise of Trump. The true left came around the time when I would say in the US, it was around when Bernie came about. When people first were talking about Bernie as like Bernie for president, you started seeing the Zoomers and like a lot of the liberals, like in like liberal cities like San Francisco. And then also they came about when like Antifa came to the States, when like they came in mass to this.
This is what I'm saying. Like I don't think black people are putting pallets of bricks outside of city courts and they're like, yo, let's destroy this whole thing. I think that's opportunists from outside, specifically white opportunists from outside, looking at this is our opportunity to overturn the apple cart in a sense. And they're seeing, oh, so this Black Lives Matter thing has traction. We can use this as a vehicle to accomplish our own end.
They saw Ferguson, and
I'm not sitting now. I think this goes back to maybe Have Hope's original framing. I agree with the 3 words that Black Lives Matter, but the way the organization is going about getting it, I think there are legitimate questions that can be asked. Like how powerful can an integrated movement be? I wonder. I don't know if I don't know if I have the answers.
I first say those are absolutely valid questions. Absolutely valid. So even if I don't agree with you, absolutely valid questions. Here's what I say though. They are valid questions. So let me say that first. But what I'm hearing right now is how you say you're one of you said you're a little deluded when you see white people. I'm excited. Because when I look at the pictures of the civil rights movement, 50s, 60s, and 70s, it was a sea of black people and a couple white Bernie Sanders cats sprinkled here and there. What I'm seeing now is a sea of white people. It's different, and I'm excited because
are they there because it's popular, or are they there because they really know?
Hold on, I'll get to that. Let's start step by step. First off, the previous time, it was mostly us, and it didn't finish the job. And when I look historically, no subset of a community has ever been able to get access to that community without the whole community working with them. So when I hear people say blacks need to do it on their own, I'm not offended by that statement. I simply say, who did it on their own? And people talk around it, but nobody did it on their own. Everyone was eventually accepted in. And it required the larger majority to accept them. So what I'm seeing here with this younger generation is some acceptance to where they are out there acting. I don't disagree. They are acting as if it's them. They are saying, I can't breathe. And I'm confused why black people are bothered by white people saying, hey, when you killed George Floyd, that was like killing me. That's my dream, personally. Now, digging deeper into it here for, what it is, that's what I wanted. When white people ask, what do you want? What do you want? They're like, what do you want? Like, I want what you got. What's up?
Can I comment on something you said? I think you're comparing 2 different things. In the 60s, let's compare technology. We have Instagram, Facebook. Things are getting spread more.
Right.
Nowadays, a lot of the Zoomers are very vegan, pro-life, they're for abortion. They're very left. You have a very left-wing way of going. As back in the 60s, people were so liberal as a way right now. We just passed a lot of laws that are very liberal. So I think what we're seeing is again, I agree with CA and Daniel that it's a lot of this very counterculture. I don't think it's better because I see white people on the street. That's a delusion, my brother. I'm sorry. I'm gonna be honest with you. If the government's not going to step in and help us with, like I said, money, education, and police ownership, I don't see that. I don't care how much pander. If you tell me these liberal white people want their white kids to go with black kids live in the hood, I don't give a goddamn how liberal they are. I don't give a damn how much they march. No one wants to live in a black or brown neighborhood because they know the property value is down. That is 2 different things, bringing up in the 60s and now when the society is going more left and we have all this technology to pass information to think America going to change just off white people marching. I'm sorry, that's an illusion.
And I apologize. Hold up. You said it at me. I apologize. Go ahead.
Wait. Ray. I'll let you go, but real quick, but just on the point that you said, because I went out to the kind of BLM march that was in London. I said, okay, let me just go and just see what it's about. Now, to my delusion, I just assumed it would just be a group of only Black people. So when I went there, I was like, wow, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of white people there. As I looked at, and they were mostly young people that you could tell these guys are mostly 19 to 21, 22. And as I was looking at them with the BLM, Black Lives Matter things, Karens, all that kind of stuff, I was like, do these guys actually care? Or is it because this is just, it's trendy? Because there is nothing that is more trendy right now than BLM and Black Lives Matter. So with you saying that, like, so do you honestly believe that a lot of these white people are like, we really empathize with the Black struggle? Or is it because, look, Blacks always create something that is cool, that is trendy, hip hop, rap, jazz, dance moves. So this is just another thing that Blacks have created that, yeah, man, this is cool. Yeah, BLM, Black Lives Matter. In a few months, drop it. So that's where I'm coming from. Do you believe that this isn't just a trend for some of these white people, or do you believe it's genuine?
Let me jump in because I'm the first. So I think that when you're talking about trends and fads and stuff like that, you're right. Black Lives Matter is a fad right now. But at the end of this, there's going to be like, and this is going to go against all the guys who are like saying that there's a bunch of white people that are out that there's going to be true believer white people that are going to hang around. It's always happened. It always will happen. And when it comes down to movements or mass movements or protest or anything that happens, there are going to be supporters that are allies that are from other races.
This is kind of the problem, though, Sam. It's the idea that if you just based off just as a smart political scientist, if we just look at the raw numbers of people in the United States, the Black population is 13 to 14%. The white population is somewhere around 60%.
61.
So if white people have the numbers to infiltrate a Black movement, eventually that Black movement will start to reflect what white people want if enough white people go into the movement.
Now,
go ahead.
So, I mean, which I do agree with you part.
You muted yourself.
Oh, Sam, I think you muted yourself, bro.
My bad.
Okay, sorry.
But Black Lives Matter is kind of like, I mean, the way it looks right now is kind of like jazz music looks nowadays. If you kind of get what I mean, like pretty much it's like mostly white people. But like once this gets back,
eventually Kenny G is gonna be the leader of Black Lives Matter. Is that what you want?
No, but like here's the I know that's just funny. But like hear me out though on this. So like the deal with it though is that Black Lives Matter is not like jazz music. It's more like hip hop music because the grassroots organization is Black people. The core is
white rapper, and you'll see Eminem. So like once you let white people in the house, they're going to overtake it in the United States.
Eminem is seen as the king of rap. He's seen as the king of rap.
Eminem is only one rapper. But getting back to what I'm saying, like, because hip hop music, just like Black Lives Matter, is Black at its core, and it will stay. And both of those will stay Black at their core.
Is it Black at its core? If when we look at the website and you say a lot of these things don't really reflect the majority of what Black people want as a whole, it might be what left Black people want as a whole in terms of we want to break down patriarchy and we're looking into this. But generally, most Black people you speak to, especially ones who are Christian, are like, nah, I'm cool with like the man, wife, or husband, wife, 2 kids, 3 kids sentiment. Like that. If I don't know if Black Lives Matter is what Black people want necessarily. If the organization, I think everybody wants Black Lives to matter just as a statement. But what the organized group that has become in vogue wants, I don't necessarily know if that's in the best interest of Black people or what Black people necessarily want.
But the thing about it though is that I mean, like a lot of
in fact, those views more reflect what white liberals want.
You might, I mean, you're probably right about that. And now here's the deal though. When you're talking about like movements, especially like something like Black Lives Matter, is that this is going to be a constantly rotating door because once the next major high-profile unarmed Black man gets killed or unarmed Black person gets killed, these guys are going to show up, and this is going to happen again. And in between that, with all the smaller issues that go on, I mean, like issues of police brutality or something, or they're going to probably get caught up in other things, other efforts. I mean, within the community, they're going to still exist, and the grassroots are still going to be there. I mean, they're going to be in parts of Hollywood. They're going to be in parts of sports. You see that already. They're just going to be smaller elements. It's just,
I don't disagree with you in that sense, but I do think the coronavirus or COVID-19, I think, is very instructive here, because what happens when as you say, the next high-profile Black person is unfortunately murdered by race soldiers? So what happens then? And let's say the bars are open, the movie theaters are open, the sporting events are open. You can go basically wherever you want in a group again. The white people who would be more inclined that just, I don't have anything to do, so I'll go to the protest. Black people are always going to show up. Black women specifically, they're always going to be there. But the white people who just didn't have anything better to do and just decided this is my excuse to get out of the house, let's go skateboard in downtown San Diego or wherever the fuck, they're going to be going to their sporting events, going to bars, going to high school, college football games. I don't think you'll see the same numbers of people based on the available activities for people to do things.
Why is there no responsibility in this conversation? Why do we keep talking about Black women and white people? Why do we keep skipping over to Black men on this call?
I got to agree with that.
Why is it that you can find 1,000 people talking about leaders, but you can't find none of these cats willing to be a leader? Why is that? Why? It sounds like a whole bunch of interested cats. I got a personal saying in business. If you interested, I ain't. If you dedicated, so am I. Sounds like a whole bunch of interested cats talking about shit. They ain't trying to do nothing ever.
Can I say, how can you be a leader? You broke. But nigga, if you broke in this country, you ain't gonna be nothing.
You right. That's a good point. That's a good point. So take it next. You broke. Fix it. Fix it. And if you say, well, Ray, I don't know how to fix it.
It's hard, bro. It ain't easy.
I don't think you need to be a leader with money. I don't think that's true, because Malcolm X died with like no money in his bank account. Thomas Sankara died with no money in his bank account. You don't.
Wait. We have to round off because we need to. So, last question before we sort of end this, because we need to round off.
Yeah.
So again, make it brief, few minutes, and then we can then round this off. What do you think should be the end goal of Black Lives Matter? So the question is, what do you think should be like, boom? Because every organization, you have your aim, your objectives, and they can then tick off, boom, 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 objectives met. So maybe I'll just give you just a minute. Again, what should be the objectives or the end goal for BLM, where they can say, aha, this has now been a success. You can't have something just go on and just evolve. No, what should be the clear things that BLM should seek to achieve? So forget what we've shown in our website. Based on you as Black people, what do you think should be the key things that BLM should aim to achieve to then view the movement having been a success once those objectives are met? Sam.
I think Corey covered them, but like if I was going to elaborate in those, I would say this: invest more in Black communities. Investing more in Black communities is investing in America, and that means doing things such as providing low interest rate, 100% with high level of guarantee loans. I mean, small business loans, home ownership loans, basically wealth generators. I mean, you're not giving, and the thing about this is that the government's not giving money away if they do this, or providing that for people. I mean, the next thing is education. I mean, if you look at like the amount of money that education in the inner city that inner city public schools get compared to public schools in the suburbs, it's shocking. I mean, like it's almost five. I mean, in the suburbs they get fivefold what schools in the inner city get. You fix that, you're basically improving education. And then finally, I mean, like, really the big thing is the criminal justice system. I mean, you take care of those three major areas, which is wealth generation, education, and the criminal justice system, and you pretty much have covered everything. And when you're talking about criminal justice system, that just doesn't include cops. That includes everything all the way up to the courts, all the way up to the Supreme Court, because Supreme Court, in terms of passing laws, I I mean, basically federal courts in terms of federal crimes, and then all the way, but the most important, the city and the state, city, states, and local districts to basically regulate things such as taking care of small time crimes all the way up to like drug dealing and stuff like that. I mean, and primarily focusing on drug crimes because the war on drugs has failed. It has failed, and it's failed the black people, and it's failed America.
Okay. Corey?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things. I mean, like I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to say some really good points. I don't know all the points that BLM should hit, but I know if BLM does anything, it should teach young black kids in America that grassroots organizations do work. You know, it should teach young black kids in America that you do have rights and you can exercise your rights, and you should not settle for just status quo the way things are supposed to be. You know, but besides that, like the things I mentioned before, ending police brutality, having 2-parent homes in the black community, and giving black people access to wealth, whether it be through a New Deal type of action like that they had in the 40s, in the 30s and 40s, which created generational wealth for white Americans by giving them access to low cost homes at regular mortgage rates, or through jobs like Juan was saying. How the fuck is the Silicon Valley only less than 2% black and brown? So a wealthy, prosperous black America makes America better and prosperous. You know what I'm saying? We can only help the country more by helping black people. I mean, and I hope that BLM kind of shows this new generation of counterculture kids that want to help. I hope it shows them that that you can only help the country and the world more by helping out black folks. So.
All right, Juan.
Yeah, I would say Sam and CA over there that said pretty much the same thing. I kind of agree with that. I think I've said that before, but I'm gonna talk about BLM itself. I think it should focus on definitely unity, togetherness, a black love for our culture, learn about our history, even when we came from Africa. A lot of times I feel a lot of black Americans don't want to associate with other foreign black people, Caribbean or African. We need to have that black love. When we see another black person, we don't see him as different. We see him as being the same struggle. Definitely the unity. We don't have the love. We don't love each other. This is why a lot of African American men don't marry black women. I'm just going to keep it 100. I mean, we need to have that love. We don't have that. If we don't fix that hate that was instilled in us, that inferior complex, that lighter is better, straighten your hair, you can't have nigger naps. All these, if this cultural thing cannot change, I don't give a goddamn what nobody say about what money. If we still hate each other, we're gonna be at each other. You're gonna have the Candace Owens, the officer, what that guy from Arizona, Officer Tatum. People making
Terry Crews,
making comments like that. So I just think we need to break them chains, those mental slavery chains that we still have from colonialism, and to have this black love that we have a lot of brothers that what I'm saying, preach about black love, but you see they white, they ain't black though. I'm just saying that though. But that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, but also, I mean, before I even come to race, I just say to African American, like, just really think about Africa, because Africa could really be the future. Maybe 10 years, 15, 20 years. But African Americans need to think long and hard about Africa as a future. Ray.
No, I'm see where this is going, bro. I'll just go with the crowd. Let's not say nothing real. Let's just say if cats run around with nigger nets, then we'll fix America for black people. That's what matters. So nigger net. And what else did we say? Let's just give black people money. Let's not change the system that siphons money. Let's just give them money. So let's just say the popular shit. And also, let's tell the youngest part of the white community that the responsibility's on them. So I'll repeat back what we said. Nigger nets, young white kids, we need to tell them to get out of the streets and do what we tell them to do. And let's also make sure we get money and that everything will be fixed. So we good.
I want to hear what you really got to say, though.
No, I don't think you do, because all that shit is bullshit. So If I say
No,
something,
no, give us your thoughts. So we're coming to you. Like, forget what everyone else said. This is you. You've got the mic now. You've got the mic now. So what?
okay, fine.
should-
The
what-
question was this. The question was this. What should BLM's mission do? All I heard was a lot of people spend a shitload of time talking about what BLM shouldn't do, but they don't got an actual thought about what they should do, like a real definitive thought. Here's mine. BLM should be working in concert for me to get treated like white people. A white guy who's the poorest guy in town. He's got little education. He's poor as dirt. When he wakes up every morning, you know what he doesn't think? He doesn't think that the reason he's the poorest guy in town is because he's white. I want to wake up every morning and not wonder if, well, it's too late for me. Let's talk about my children. I want to go on saying that my children, even if they are the poorest person in town, it's not because they're black. If my kid is in jail doing 20 years to life, I don't want to say he's doing 20 instead of 15 because he's black. What I want, and because I talk to white groups in the church, all this stuff, I tell them the same thing. They keep asking me, what do you want? What do you want? I want what you got, and I want to get it how you got it. So I was telling this Catholic church group the other day, I want to get treated like you. So they're like, well, here's a list of things we think you should do to get it. I said, fuck you.
Whoa.
Here's why. I shouldn't have to do something different than you did to get it. Because I asked them, if you're a white person, what did you do to get it? And they agreed. Nothing. They did nothing to get it. Don't give me a list of shit to do to get what you got. I want what you got, and I want it how you got it. So coming back to my earlier point, all white people that are white people today were not always white people. They were not always white people. So that's what I want. I don't want to settle for any of that low-level shit. I want that North Star. Now, someone's writing there, Cap, I absolutely agree with you. If I had to put a statistical guess on it, I won't see that in my lifetime. Doesn't mean I can't fight for it, bro. Doesn't mean I can't fight for it. So take all that low-level stuff. I'm not going to tell you how to walk, but that's what I want. I want it all of it. I want to live my life in such a way that even if I'm at the bottom of the pile, there's not evidence supporting that the reason I'm at the bottom of the pile is because of how I look. That's what I want. And that's what I want BLM to be about. I want BLM to make it how there's no difference between German Americans and Irish Americans. I want a BLM that works towards there being no difference between German American, Irish American, and African American, or black, because I know we had that conversation the time before. Whatever you want to call it. That's what I think BLM should be working towards. All the other stuff is low level.
It's okay. So before I go to Daniel, Ray, and this is what I think I mentioned this before on one of our streams. To get that, you have two options. You either go to war to destroy that system, or you create your own system. You are not changing it like that. So you have two options. Be prepared to go to war, because those guys are going to fight to maintain a system, because the system, it is needed. I think this is what my Ghanaian friend said, that the system is predicated on we have power, you don't. So if you want to be the same as us, you have to dismantle it. The system, by definition, is we have power, you don't.
Can you walk me through? Can you walk me through how the Italians? Can you walk me through how the Italians and the Germans dismantled America and rebuilt it from 1920 to 1940? Can you walk me through that? Because in 1920, they had signs saying no dogs and no Irish on the lawn. The Italians, they were treated almost. They like to say they were treated as bad, but that's not true. They were treated almost as bad as us. How did the Irish and the Italians go from 1920 to 1940? Walk me through that war or that deconstruction of America.
What's the race of the Irish?
White. It's like they're white.
Again, coming back to white.
Believe that black people will have the same fight as the Irish or the Italians. Let them say no, Irish, no, it's Italians. Do you really believe that the black people will have the same fight as an Irish person? however bad it was for the Irish back then, you're still white. And it comes to the fundamental.
Here's the problem I'm seeing. Here's the problem I'm seeing. I can't force you guys to go do the research. Italians were not called white in the 20s. Something changed. When they first showed up, it wasn't your white people that are new. They were not white. When you look at the census, other people were labeled as white. Italians were labeled as something else. So
there's actually a book on this. There's actually a book on this when the Italian and Irish became white. There's actually a book
I got
on this.
3 of them back there right now. So that's what we can go around in circles all day, but if you refuse to do your research on 1890 to 1930, we're just going around in circles. That's what we're doing here. I'm trying to explain to you that the white people today were not always white. So the question is,
okay, so you believe that so basically you believe that there can be a time when 20, 30, 40, 60 years that black people can be pretty much seen as white.
that nigga dream.
It's absolutely funny.
Don't they have the same concept in Latin America? Don't they have the same concept in Latin America though, where you got rich black folks like Sammy Sosa be like, yeah, I used to be black, but now I'm white.
It's a made-up term. So it's a small mind. It's a small man. It's a small mind who doesn't realize if the term white was made up, because you didn't have the word white anywhere in America in 1850. You didn't have it. And then as it became more and more predominant, it was a very subset. For example, Greeks as well. Greeks were not white until I think 1950. So for a cat to sit there and be like, it's a cat who don't know the history of the word white. It's a club. You can change the name of the club if you want. Call it America.
It's a club predicated on what, Raymond?
It's a club predicated on exclusivity.
No, it's a club predicated.
American ideal.
White exists exclusively for the purpose to delineate not black. Yeah. So you cannot divorce the fact that the race of white people in air quotes only exists to delineate the difference between the African people that are here.
Fiction, it don't make it any true. There was laws called Chinese Exclusion Acts. Yeah. So I can hear you talk with all that courage, bro. Don't make the shit true. It wasn't just black versus white. We tend to make this shit binary too often. There was Pakistanis. There was Indian and Pakistani soldiers.
Are Chinese people World War II. Are Chinese people white? Chinese people are Chinese people.
Are they black, bro? Are they black? Because that's how you just painted it.
I'm saying you painted the frame of Irish and Germans,
right, as ethnicity. So again, answer the question.
But what is the ethnicity of what was the ethnicity of the enslaved Africans that lived here?
Black. What is the ethnicity?
That's the only reason. That's the only purpose that's the only reason whiteness exists is to tell you that that's not black.
Like I said, even now you can't answer the question straight up, bro.
What's the question?
The question was, you painted white versus black, and you said the only reason the white construct was created was to be versus black. I then brought up the Chinese Exclusion Act. Which box does that fit in?
It doesn't apply.
Oh, why? Because your feelings, or you got some facts?
No, because Chinese people are different from white and black people.
So I got nothing. You win. I don't know what that means.
It means exactly what it means. The Asian phenotype is different from the white and the African, or the European, the African, and the European. It means
go off this logic. Whites were solely created to say not black, but when I ask you about Chinese, it doesn't have anything to do with that construct.
Well, I get the construct what you're saying, but I think it's a little bit irrelevant because you asked what happened to Germans and Italians. They made a race called Hispanic, which doesn't exist. It doesn't matter what color you are. You could be African descendant, native descendant, or even from Argentina, be European. You consider a ethnic race. So what happened is they created a subculture called Latino. That's what happened. And I think it's a little bit irrelevant about what white people was called then. I don't give a shit. They call it white now. I'm talking about the present. I'm still being black.
I hear you keep using the word think, man. But again, it's hard to keep track of this because it seems like we're making it up as we go.
How are we making it up as we go?
I keep presenting facts. You present feelings.
What facts, man? What facts are you talking about, man?
So the fact is the Chinese Exclusion Act. That's not a feeling. That happened.
Okay, the Chinese Exclusion Act.
You responded with your feeling that it doesn't apply. I'm not mad at you,
No,
but I can't win if I bring facts and you keep bringing your feelings.
But so tell me, Raymond, how does that relate to right now and what Black people are going through right now? Because how does that relate?
That's a good question. It relates because I'm talking about paths to get to a certain place, and I'm calling out the fact there's not just one path. You're claiming the only way people got there was because they're white. I give you evidence that one day people were called white and the next day they weren't. And you keep ignoring that.
Well, I think it's irrelevant.
Okay, wait. Okay. Let's Daniel. So come to your because
I hear you. If a guy feels what he feels, it's irrelevant. I don't know what to say. I lose.
I mean, I think you got
Daniel,
no, I think going back to what I think Black Lives Matter should be. I think we've heard like Raymond wants it all. Sam wants a bunch of things. Everybody else wants a bunch of stuff. I think what lets a lot of these movements down is that they try to be everything for everyone, and they try to attain everything. I think a movement like Black Lives Matter should be specific to one thing. You can have more than one organization to accomplish more than one thing. You don't have to make it, a limousine to where everybody who needs something or every issue that afflicts Black people has to be solved by this one organization. I think it would make it bloated and it would just make it ineffective. So I think the major thing that Black people that Black Lives Matter should focus on is the prison industrial complex or the prison industrial system. Full stop. So that's it. I like the idea of, we need to get back to our Blackness. We need to understand ourselves and all of this stuff. But what should Black Lives Matter be focused on? Police brutality and how that relates or how that's included inside of the prison industrial complex. It's pretty much that simple.
My issue though with Black Lives Matter is that like saying all this, like the slogan doesn't really link with the main purpose of the organization. And I know a lot of people are gonna hate me about that, but because when you say Black Lives Matter, to me that applies to every Black life that we're talking about. I know people are gonna be like, yo, like that came up, but if it fits with this specific narrative and this specific organization because it's easy to say. It's easy for anybody to say Black Lives Matter, and it's easy for us to say as Black people to say Black Lives Matter. But then again, when it comes to this organization, if it's going to say Black Lives Matter, I usually think that applies to everything. That applies to everything. And I know bringing up all types of stuff, everything from gang violence, which I know people who talk to me, tell me to shut the fuck up about gang violence. It's not a myth. Gang violence happens. A lot of motherfuckers die every year. Look at fucking Chicago. That shit always fucking happens.
Jesus.
And that happens through a long.
This guy said, "Look at Chicago."
Fuck Chicago. Niggas over there are fucking wild. I'm sorry. Niggas are really wild.
Yeah, but okay, Sam, this is my point. That Black Lives Matter has become kind of a catch-all phrase for every Black problem, and for me, that's a sloppy way to go about organizing something. If the point they've said
it's because then it can't be effective. Then it's like, oh well, Black on Black crime, blah blah. It's like you have to be focused on what is it. Because I've always said that Black Lives Matter, it's about racism and it's about how African Americans see themselves and how they've been put within America. It has nothing to do with Black on Black crime because there's white on white crime, there's Asian on Asian crime. It's based on proximity. So the Black Lives Matter thing is about racism.
Bro, that's bullshit though. Like I'm gonna straight up even jump into this, and people are gonna hate me on this, but like, yo, there's a lot of people talk about a myth of crime, or like, I mean, brothers in the community talk about that. There's a myth of crime, and there's a myth of criminals, and there's a myth of stuff. I grew up in the Bronx, and there were drive-bys on my block every fucking week.
Sam.
Like, I'm like, now you got me on a tangent because
nobody is saying that Black people don't harm other Black people. We're saying that we're saying it's the mythology of Black on Black crime is somehow inherently specific to Black people. That Black people harm themselves at a disproportionate rate to other people harming themselves, which isn't true.
true. The problem is that we do. I'm not.
No, it isn't. It's not true. Or if it is true, it's not enough to where it's a complex.
I mean, it's a gang and this is not. And here's the deal: it's not the majority of black people that are doing it. It's not our culture. It's fucking gangs, bro. This is gangs. This is all that bullshit is fucking gang bullshit. Bloods, Crips, Latin Kings, MS-13. Fucking, we had Albanians.
You're not going to include the Latin Kings and MS-13 and black on black violence. I mean, come on, man.
But let me get into what I'm saying. Most of the gangs in my high school were black. 4 of the major gangs in my high school.
You probably lived in a black area. If you went to go live in a place like LA, then the gangs would be.
The Bronx is like 40%. Bro. The Bronx is like 50% Puerto Rican and Dominican.
So those are black people by another name.
Okay, wait, guys, wait, because we may have to just cut the show because I need to bounce, man. But before we get into this whole thing, man, guys, I need to just thank you guys. We will hopefully try and do this again next Tuesday. Some very, very heated debates, some very, very heated topics, and so forth. So again, so just for everyone, can you just tell how people can find you, your socials and so forth, in case guys want to find you on your socials? So Sam, where can people find you?
Yo, people can find me on Instagram. My Instagram is KDrew311. I'll post it in the stuff there. But like, I'm down to talk about anything, man.
Oh, okay. Corey?
I'm at Philly Abroad on Twitter. Philly Abroad.
Okay. And Juan?
Find me on Instagram. I'm in N1 We Trust in Instagram.
Okay. And obviously, Daniel, where does you know where most guys?
Contact this podcast, bro. That's where you can find me.
All right, guys. Okay, guys. Thank you very much. And hopefully we'll see you guys again next Tuesday for another Stay Black stream, man. Peace out. Like the vid. Subscribe if you're new. I'm out. Peace out, guys. Peace. Become a Half Hope Sort member and gain access to exclusive videos and also the chance to watch films, anime, or different videos with your boy HH exclusively. Just click below on the join button to join in and become a Half Hope Sort member to gain access to these perks. Just click on the community icon over here to view the new members only posts just for you.